It's a Friday edition of Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, your home for the Big 12 Conference. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are on your screen via the Big 12 Fast channel, Big 12 Studios, and Big12Studios.com. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Boss man Edgar's in the house, producing and engineering our program today.
Dude, this is a Championship Friday show.
Championship Friday.
And what are you wearing?
I am rocking my Kansas State throwback L. Roberson jersey today.
Okay.
Because
why?
Because it's been a big 24 hours in Manhattan, Kansas.
Got it. Okay. So you're a jersey guy.
Sometimes.
Do you often rock jerseys out of the house?
Pretty much never.
Okay.
Maybe during the summer I'll rock the basketball jersey because it's essentially like a fancy tank top.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
But football,
That's
no. In fact,
uncomfortable.
this is the first time I've ever worn this jersey, and I've had it for a good decade.
I could tell. It looks
Custom
so
made.
pressed.
No big deal. If you know, you know. L. Roberson, 2003, Big 12 Championship, Colin Klein, 2012, Big 12 Championship, Heisman runner-up, and he will officially be introduced as the next head football coach at Kansas State later this afternoon. So I'm fired up.
L. Roberson will be.
Colin Klein will
Got
be.
it. Okay. I was confused there. You were in the L. Roberson jersey.
L.
you're talking
Klein, Colin Roberson, later today.
about. Yeah, it's a interesting looking jersey there. It looks like you got it off the rack from China.
Yeah, well, I'm previewing the 2026 Big 12 Championship game by wearing this today, which I assume K-State will be wearing white with silver pants in that game when they're locked in
Yeah.
to next year's title.
Remember, yesterday we argued. You had the first opportunity to argue that K-State would have the top offense, the Big 12, and you opted not to argue for that. Just so we're clear here.
Yeah, well-rounded football team, complementary football, special teams major uptick.
Yeah, so next year, if K-State has the best offense in the Big 12, I was the first one to call it. Just let the record show.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So we'll both have something to celebrate this time next year.
I'm choosing violence this morning.
I see that.
It's the purple jersey. It's just got me all whacked out and all discombobulated.
There we go. I want to make sure people can see the 3 and the authentic Big 12 logo.
Yeah, it's a odd fitting jersey.
Cat.
It
Yeah, it
kind
does.
of like bunches up in the front.
Yeah, when you order jerseys straight from the warehouse for $15 that take 3 months to ship here to the States, you never know what you're going to get. I actually think it turned out quite nice. Okay? Meanwhile, you're rocking these shoes that, what are those?
Jays?
Which ones?
What are these?
Those are infrared 6s.
I knew Edgar would
Edgar's
know.
on it.
Major assist. So do you guys actually play on, like, actual hardwood in the church league, or do you play on, like, the carpet with the concrete underneath it?
I can't believe you're making fun of my Jays. Somebody that doesn't even own Jays. You don't even, bro, do you even lift?
Do you even lift? I know you do because I saw you on the elliptical at the gym the other day, and we got really excited to do a cross-gym wave.
Don't ever tell people I do the elliptical.
What?
I was on a treadmill,
Were
okay?
you?
Like a good
It looked very
red-blooded
elliptical.
American man.
It looked elliptical.
It was a treadmill.
You in a line of
You're going to have
40+
people
year old
confused about the type of, well, be that as it may. Why else would you go to the gym?
Man, it's a big day. It's a Friday. It's here, the Big 12 Championship game, presented by Edward Jones, and it is a Pardee with John Pardee, who we're going to have some snippets of an interview that was recorded with him from one of our guys earlier this week throughout the show. Big 12 first team, all Big 12 team is out. Kansas State maybe is or isn't going to a bowl game. If they opt out, it will mean that a 5-7 Rice team would be the next team in to a bowl game, so we'd have a below 500 team in college football playing in another bowl game this year. They're also set to announce Colin Klein as their head coach at a press conference this afternoon, and then there's all of a sudden smoke around Matt Campbell maybe going to Penn State as they zero in on the Iowa State head coach. So here on this Friday edition, before we get to Greg Wrubell, voice of the BYU Cougars, here in about 15 minutes, what is top of mind for you today?
Well, beyond the fact that it looks like Netflix has just acquired Warner Brothers Discovery for $82.7 billion. What? I mean, Netflix used to send DVDs through the mail, and at one point when they were starting up, tried to partner with Blockbuster. Blockbuster's like, You're a nobody. And now they're basically going to be a monopoly in the streaming industry. But I digress.
Well, what?
Top of mind for me beyond the Big 12 championship game tomorrow, which is going to be a party, and not just from John Party, but 100,000 plus expected to be there. I mean, standing room only seats are going for $80, and I mean, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be so much fun. I mean, when you think about the game was incredible last year with 55K, so with a number that's twice as much as that. And by the way, this will not only be the most attended Big 12 championship game ever, it will be the most attended conference championship game ever. The Big Ten record is 67,000, which was set in 2023, and the SEC record is 83,000 back in 1992. So the Big 12 championship game is set to break all of the records for attendance. It's going to be a massive party. I'm super psyched you're going. You're going to have a fun time.
Okay, one more shot that unfortunately.
Oh no, there's plenty more on the way.
Plenty more. Okay, it's going to be a full day of that.
No, not just today, but moving forward.
Pretty much the rest of time itself.
Yeah.
Man, you did choose violence today, but I'm here for it. I respect it.
It's the jersey. That's what it is.
I respect your game.
It's like 17 straight losses for Kansas against Kansas State.
We're about to talk Kansas basketball for the next 6 months. We can't have one day.
I mean,
one day.
Bill Snyder went 5-7 his last year, win over Kansas. Chris Kleiman goes 6-6 his last year, win over Kansas. I mean, even in the worst years at K-State, we can't beat you guys.
You know who recruited Colin Klein to Manhattan, Kansas?
James Franklin.
James Franklin.
The former K-State offensive coordinator.
He was the OC and the quarterbacks coach under Ron Prince, and they found this kid out of Loveland, Colorado, who was a 3-star recruit and actually was a wide receiver in high school. Played a little bit of quarterback, but his freshman year at K-State, Colin Klein was a receiver. Wore a completely different number.
Which is actually not surprising at all if you watched him play quarterback.
Wow. Okay, his throwing motion was a little unorthodox, I'll give you that, but he had a high completion rate.
And it didn't matter that he couldn't throw. You couldn't stop him.
He almost won the Heisman.
You couldn't stop him. It didn't matter.
No, it didn't matter. So James Franklin, like a full circle moment with Matt Campbell maybe being targeted by Penn State is their next head coach. We'll dive into that on and off throughout the day. But Warner Brothers. So I wanted to jump in and ask you, like, what does that mean maybe for the sports landscape? Because they've got TNT, they have obviously the NCAA tournament, and there used to be like a TNT Turner Warner Sports Network that was 24/7 that has gone away. But we've seen what they've done with the Big 12 this season for football, which I'm sure it's going to be fantastic for basketball too.
I'd imagine there's a long road here for this transaction to go through, but just seeing that number and I mean, the growth of Netflix has just been astonishing. I mean, when you think about this, Netflix basically used other studios' content to build an empire. So what they said is like, all right, hey, HBO, you're not using this, right? Like these shows are just dusty, and these movies are just dusty. Just nobody's watching them. Like, let us sublease them. We'll pay you for them. And basically, they did that with all these different outlets, right? And accumulated this huge inventory by paying them. And they're all like, yeah, great. This is great revenue for us. Meanwhile, they were amassing this, incredible following that people started obviously going to Netflix, which increased their revenues. Then Netflix started using that to create their own programming, and off they were going. So they basically, like, it was a Trojan horse what they did with all these other studios and media companies. They basically were like, hey, we're this little guy. You're not using any of this content, right? We'll just buy it from you, or at least sublease it from you, and that's how they amassed all of the subscribers they got, and then they used that to start producing their own content. And now they're making Oscar-winning films and have $83 billion to spend on acquiring Warner Brothers. So it's an incredible rise, and it's going to be a long road for them potentially to get this done because, like, I don't know if there's an antitrust thing here, if they're going to basically have a monopoly on the streaming market. I mean, Warner Brothers Discovery owns HBO, so they would then be passing along HBO. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, the sports piece is another part to that, so it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah,
you know what's really top of mind for me this morning? Is Matt Campbell really going to leave Iowa State for Penn State?
Okay.
So rumors started to swirl that. I did an interview with the buddy Zach Gelb, who's on the Infinity Sports Radio Network last night, and he asked me about that, and I was like, it was like the first time I'd heard of it.
You mean Kalani Sitake?
Yeah,
No, he's going back to BYU.
Yeah, he's like, Matt, and I was like, why would, like, of all the jobs that Matt Campbell would leave Iowa State for, why would he leave for a job where he's like clearly the 10th choice? You know, like, I'm assuming there's some ego that Matt Campbell has, and would he really be leaving Iowa State at this point in time for a job at Penn State that, again, like publicly, he'd be like the 10th choice? I would think he'd want to leave for a job where he'd be, closer to the top of the food chain because he is that good of a coach. Now, this could be, again, Penn State has gotten a lot of coaches a lot of money this year. You look at Matt Rule and some of these other coaches that have got extensions based on being linked to Penn State. And maybe, just maybe, Matt Campbell is trying to use it as leverage. I mean, we know that Campbell's trying to get more money for his assistants, more money in NIL. I mean, that's the game right now. Mm-hmm. The game is obvious because these coaches are in it and see how much money they need to spend to build championship-level rosters. I don't know that Matt Campbell's going to be at Iowa State forever, but this feels like not the right job for him to leave for.
He's turned down multiple NFL opportunities to stay at Iowa State. I think the timing of it maybe makes this a little bit different, and I think $10 million a year certainly doesn't hurt. Iowa State has been pretty outspoken about how they've kind of hit their ceiling with NIL and how much of an effort it takes collectively for them to compete in the new Big 12 from an NIL standpoint. So I think the dollars, number one, that's massive. And has Matt Campbell maxed out with what he can do, the resources that he has at Iowa State? He's at the point in his career where if he's going to make a jump, his window is pretty much now or the next couple of years because he's getting a little bit older to where he won't be as attractive of a candidate. And so I think, Penn State gives him access to a level or a tier that he's never coached with. The national recruiting pipelines, the budget, the big brand, the donor horsepower, all that stuff, which I could see being attractive for him because he's already been to it. Like, what else can he do at Iowa State with where they are in this new landscape? He's already been to a Big 12 championship game. It would be to probably win a Big 12 championship. But this year, going 8-4 after making the championship game last year, what does next year look like for Iowa State? I just think that the Big 12 collectively as a conference, everybody around them is improving monetarily and on the field at a more rapid rate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I think that's probably what Matt Campbell is going through right now, that exact exercise you just described. Can I win a national championship at Iowa State? I would think based on the access to money, the answer might be no, but I don't know. Matt Campbell would know. Matt Campbell would have a better sense of that. And, again, this could very well, in the same way of Kalani Sitake being used as leverage, because Sitake knew, like, Richard Johnson from CBS Sports has this great article that came out that says a common quip in BYU circles is that Texas Tech team that the Cougars are about to face the Big 12 championship game has a defensive front paid more than BYU's entire team. So, that gets into the nitty-gritty of why Kalani Sitake knew that he had to use the leverage he had to try to maximize the amount of money he could spend on his roster. Like, that's the game today. That is the game. Coaches are going to take interviews and be linked to jobs that they may actually end up eventually taking, or that they're using as leverage to stay at their current place in order to basically say, like, this is the price of doing business. Like it, hate it, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the reality of the situation, and it ain't changing. And, look, Matt Campbell's done an incredible job in developing quarterbacks. Brock Purdy has helped to usher in a new era for Iowa State because Brock Purdy led to Rocco Becht. Becht chooses Iowa State as a big reason because of Brock Purdy. And I would imagine like others will follow in the same capacity. But not all of them are going to be former NFL players' sons that, Rocco's getting NIL money, but some of these guys, want to earn. I have no idea what Rocco's making. I'd imagine it's not what market value would bear out for a guy like Rocco Becht. He's there to get developed and go to the NFL because he thinks Matt Campbell gives him the opportunity to do so, and others will follow suit. But not all of them have the resources from parents in order to make compromises in that way.
Right. That's an excellent point. And this isn't a knock on Iowa State. I would put Iowa State and Kansas State and right now Oklahoma State and your Kansas Jayhawks all in the same boat. Those programs with the NIL landscape, their ceiling is no longer a national championship. Like, it pains me to say that, but when you look at how much money is being funneled into some of these other programs, not just in the Big 12, but nationally, like, I think the ceiling at a Kansas State or an Iowa State is to make the college football playoff, win a Big 12 championship, but even that would be very, very difficult. And if he goes to Penn State with the resources that they have, the only thing missing from Matt Campbell's resume is a playoff appearance, a national championship, and those are things that I do think he can obtain at Penn State. And he's been at Iowa State for 9 years. You know, he's been there since 2016. I think this is an opportunity also where he's not going to burn any bridges. Maybe he does get everything he's asking for at Iowa State, but my concern is, do they have the funds to make it happen? Kansas State hired Colin Klein as a 36-year-old up-and-comer. They're not paying him Penn State-type money. Same thing for Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. With where these programs are at financially, that makes more sense to me than an Iowa State being able to hang with the Penn States from an NIL perspective. And I say Matt Campbell's not going to burn any bridges if he does take this job because of his tenure at Iowa State. He's been there for 9 years. He's built a family of coaches where somebody that has learned, that he has mentored and tutored, can slide in there and be the next guy at a reasonable rate.
Yeah, I would be significantly less surprised by Matt Campbell leaving for Penn State than I would be had Kalani Sitake left. Like, the Kalani Sitake rumors, to me, were far more surprising than Matt Campbell.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Felt that way all along. In fact, I was stunned by Kalani Sitake because I thought, what about Matt Campbell? And like, we heard his name early on in the process. He was on all these short lists. I can't believe it's taken Penn State this long to reach out.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, this is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We've got so much more to dive into today, including the path to a Big 12 championship for BYU and Texas Tech. We'll look at the availability report, the Modelo fan rules for Saturday, and keys to victory for both teams here in about 20 minutes. But coming up next, we get the BYU angle with the voice of the BYU Cougars, Greg Wrubell. We talked to him yesterday, and you're going to want to hear what he had to say. This is Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo, and heard exclusively on TuneIn.
Told you.
Big 12 Radio. This Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. So please be joined right now by Greg Wrubell, the voice of BYU, as BYU gears up for a Big 12 championship appearance against Texas Tech on Saturday at AT&T Stadium. And, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, Greg, to consider that when this season started, or right even before the season started, to think that BYU would end up here. Right? We knew this team would be good, but just the uncertainty at quarterback, it's just wild to think how crazy of a season it's been, considering, again, that this team lost its starting quarterback from last year right before the season started.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, you could argue that BYU is still, kind of paying the price for that preseason ranking. When Jake Retzloff left, everyone just thought, well, there goes BYU, and they dropped BYU out of a potential top 25. They would have been probably 13, 14 to start the season. They had so much room to make up, and I think there is an actual, there's data that shows that the teams that were ranked are kind of more or less where you'd expect them to be at this point, and unranked BYU had too much room to have to move to get to a position where they could argue for anything higher at this point. So I think there was some bias in rankings that BYU took a long time to overcover. And there's data on this too. BYU is perennially, the most underranked team in the country. They most often end up in the top 25 when they didn't start in the top 25. And so for BYU, I think BYU deserves actually extra credit for losing Jake Retzloff and doing what they've done. To take a true freshman quarterback and get an 11-1 season in a power conference. The Sean Alexander list for Freshman of the Year award came out last night, and Bear's not on that. Bear Bachmeier is a true freshman. Some of these other guys already had multiple college games on their resume. We're talking about a kid who was in high school last year, steps in at a P4 level, helps his team to an 11-1 season with 3,000 yards of total. I mean, Bear's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
He should be a much bigger story. BYU should be a much bigger story. And that BYU story has been tamped down and tamped down and tamped down, and they are dismissed. And unfortunately, it all comes down to 26-0. And when I say that, that was the score of the Texas Tech BYU game in the fourth quarter. And I think the committee watched that game, and on that day in early November, they saw 26-0 and said, okay, that's BYU. And they haven't considered anything else before or since. It's unfair. It's not right. The data doesn't back them up. It was a bad day against a really good team. All right, we're talking about the team, the committee voted Texas Tech number 4. Okay, that's an elite football team on its home field. Their smallest victory margin all year was the BYU game. Their only game with under 30 points all year was the BYU game. Their fewest yards in a win all year was the BYU game. BYU got beat, all right, and 26-0 was not great. Finished 29-7. But let's remember that was a tough test on a team's home field, an elite football team. It's funny, I go back and I think about the first 2 series Texas Tech had in that game. 7 plays, minus 29 yards. The BYU defense came to play, all right? Texas Tech did nothing in its first 2 series. And BYU's first 2 chances for special teams plays were a shank punt and a fumbled punt return. Those 2 plays helped flip things pretty early, got Texas Tech rolling, and we saw what happened. But that said, it's 13-0 at halftime. It's a ball game. Had the offense and the special teams had any kind of game like the defense had that day, I think we're talking about a different deal. Point being, the committee's using that one data point, that one game, that one bad showing by the offense and special teams to say that's a football team, and that's not the football team. There's 12 games to go on. There are ranked wins. There are road wins. There are comeback wins. There's a great freshman story. There's an awesome head coach. There's a lot to love about BYU. And for some reason, everybody's flipped the switch to off on BYU in the committee and the national media.
And just real quickly, a very close comp would be last year's Indiana team that lost one game to
got smoked
38-15. It's almost the exact same resume, except BYU probably has a better win. There was no Utah win on Indiana's schedule last year.
It's a 23-point loss. It's a 22-point loss. And again, it's to a team you say is elite.
Right.
All right. What's the standard we're setting here? SMU last year. All right. They went to their title game, lost it, ended up 11-2. By the way, their other loss that year besides Clemson was BYU.
BYU. Yeah.
BYU never got credit for the SMU win last year. So SMU went in, lost their title game, ended up joining Clemson in the college football playoff. The only difference being Clemson, I think, was an 8 going in, and BYU's an 11. Those 3 spots make all the difference. But unfortunately for BYU, the 3 spots this year are occupied by 2 lost teams, and BYU's a 1-loss team. Just even in the most simple manner of observation, you can't put 3 2-loss teams in front of a 1-loss team that has played the schedule with the strength of record of BYU. There's just so much wrong with the rankings. But the committee will never admit they're wrong. They don't want to move anybody at this point. Yes, they bumped Alabama to give themselves a bit of a buffer, but they don't want to pull teams back by just going, oh, you know what? We really should have looked closer at BYU's resume. That's kind of our bad. They don't do that.
Completely agree. And BYU has a better win-loss record. They have a better strength of record. They have a better strength of schedule. They have more top 25 wins than all the other teams that have 2 losses. So of the 3 teams that you just noted there, like, what's your biggest beef? Who do you think BYU, no-brainer, should be in front of that somehow, some way is still ranked higher?
Notre Dame.
Yep.
I mean, you saw the conference's graphic last night, right? I mean, that's pretty plain to see where BYU should be in comparison to Notre Dame. Alabama has a loss so much worse than anything on BYU's resume. The Florida State game, by the way, Florida State lost to Stanford, who BYU smoked. We can pick holes in anybody in front of BYU and do it with some good data to back it up. There's no doubt about that. I just don't know what they're looking at besides the Texas Tech game. And I really do. But guys, I admit, I concede 26-0 was not a good look. If that game finishes, 27-20, 31-24, maybe we don't have this discussion. If that was a ball game through 4 quarters, the committee probably gives BYU a fairer shake at this point. It's just really unfortunate. And this is on BYU, right? This is on them. On that day, they were not right in all 3 phases of the game. Okay, and because of that, they're paying the price for it. They have to acknowledge it. They do acknowledge it. They weren't in the game when they needed to be. If they were in the game, I'd like to think the committee would have given BYU a fair shake, but it was so stark that day. It looked so bad that day that they, I think, made their decision. That's who we think BYU is. It was a weird day, guys. BYU has 22 takeaways on the year. They have multiple takeaways in 8 of their 11 games. They have at least 1 takeaway in 11 of 12 games. The one game where they don't get a takeaway, it's the Texas Tech game. They had 2 picks that they should have had, didn't get. It was a weird game that way. So they were -3 in the margin against one of the best turnover margin teams in the country. They were -18 yards in average starting field position. You can't win that game. Those 2 numbers alone, -3 in the margin and -18 in average starting field position, you're dead. And they were dead that day. But it was such an outlier. The areas in which they've been strong all year, they weren't strong that day. Give a lot of credit to Texas Tech. I mean, again, elite football team. You go through their stat rankings. Where are they weak? Nowhere. There was not a weakness on this Texas Tech team. And now BYU's being asked to beat this team or risk being on the outside looking in on the college football playoff. Even if they were to lose to Texas Tech, those are 2 losses to one of the best football teams in the country. And there's not enough left on the BYU resume to say that's a good football team. Clearly, I disagree. But the committee rules the day, and you see where BYU is at number 11. The equally unconscionable thing, guys, to me, is how the national media, ESPN notably, is just ignoring BYU to the extent where they will show 10, 12, and 13 on the screen and leave out 11.
Yep.
It's that blatant and that obvious. I don't get it.
So, Greg, let's say Saturday's close. Let's say it is a 27-20 game in the 4th quarter. If BYU doesn't win outright, let's say it's close and the style points are there for BYU and Alabama loses their conference championship game. Do you think that's enough to move the needle?
I will hope, beyond hope, that it is, right? And maybe the contrast will be good. Maybe the committee will go, oh, maybe there's more to BYU than we thought. This looks better than we saw before. This Bachmeier kid's a player. This defense that is almost as good as Texas. They may have that feeling. That'd be my hope. The fact that you've got teams that won't be playing this weekend, that they can't make a point this weekend. BYU's got this. I mean, is there a more motivated team in America than BYU this weekend? There can't be, right? I mean, everything is on the line for BYU. They know that everybody's against them at this point. It would certainly benefit the Big 12 that BYU gets two teams in, but Texas Tech's not lying down for anybody. They're playing for a bye. They're motivated too, but BYU's got all these motivational elements going for them. And I think something we should think about too, guys, is Texas Tech can go into this game saying, we do what we do. It was good enough to beat BYU 29-7 last time. It should be good enough to beat BYU again this time. We are who we are. We're healthy. Let's just go play Texas Tech football, and that should be enough. BYU goes into it going, we can't just do what we did last time. Something's got to change. Something's got to be better. Something's got to be different. And so I think that could help, too, from a tactical standpoint. BYU knowing it's got to make some adjustments. L.J. Martin's going to be healthier. That was his first game back off the Iowa State injury. He wasn't right that day. In fact, his first run was 12 yards. He took a pop at the end of that. I think he got dinged at the wrong place on his body after that 12-yard hit. And I don't think he was the same the rest of the way. He's much better now. I mean, LJ's had an amazing season. I mean, he's one of the best offensive players in the conference. He's better now than he was on that day. Bear Bachmeier conceded that was kind of his first rough day of the year, and he's been better since that day. I think there's a lot of reasons to think that BYU can show better, and it is weird that all these chances for early special teams plays they made mistakes on. A shank punt, a fumbled punt return, taking a kickoff out of the end zone, missing a field goal, all these things that would have kept you in the game went the other way when they hadn't been playing that way. And so I kind of want to say it's a mulligan, and sometimes your second swing's just better than that first swing. And that'll be the hope for BYU on Saturday.
Yeah, well said, Greg, and agree with everything you said there. I mean, it was very uncharacteristic. I mean, this is a very good team from a special teams perspective, and they were dreadful on special teams. And this is a very good team in terms of not turning the football over, and they were -3. Do you think they were played scared in that game?
I don't know. There's always that cliche about the game being too big, and I don't know. I do know that was a great home field advantage that day for Texas Tech. And Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator, told me straight up after, we made way too many pre-snap mistakes because of noise. He thought the noise did impact his team. And it was probably the best environment they'd played in to that point of the season. This isn't going to be a home game for Texas Tech. That's also a difference here. Granted, both teams had to deal with the wild wind, but that was a 20 to 30 mile per hour wind all day, and it just hurt BYU more than it hurt Texas Tech. Straight up, BYU didn't handle it as well as Texas Tech. This will not be a weather affected game. It will not be a crowd affected game. This is a sold out. By the way, how great is it? Sold out midweek. And this, the BYU crowd's going to show up. You guys know. I mean, you take BYU to Provo, you're still going to find a fan base that will follow the Cougars. And so the Cougars are going to draw really well from Texas and surrounding areas. And this is going to be a great football game environment. I'm so looking forward to getting back into the building on Saturday. It'll be my third game I think I've called there. I called the Oklahoma game in 2009. When the Sooners were ranked number 3 and BYU beat them to start the season. And then 2011, first year of independence, they played TCU in a neutral field game there as well. And so looking really forward to getting back in. It's going to be outstanding. I hope at the end of the day, we're talking about 2 Big 12 teams going to the playoff. Of course, that means that BYU is taking care of business. But what a challenge. I mean, Texas Tech is so good. You look for holes you can poke. You really can't. The only thing you can hope, if you're BYU, in terms of their weaknesses coming to the forefront, they get penalized a lot. Penalties can hurt you in big game situations. They weren't as penalized against BYU. I think they had 6 for 50, which you can get over. And the fact they do take a few TFLs and Morton's gotten sacked a few times. And I'd argue that BYU actually has a more efficient offense on the year than Texas Tech. But that Texas Tech defense, even though BYU's defense is really good, Texas's Tech defense is elite, arguably the best in the country. And you can use a lot of data to back that up right now. So, again, good luck finding areas you can exploit because there are so few for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, well said. Greg, before we let you go, what's going on with BYU basketball?
Yeah, another win last night. Cal Baptist. People got Cal Baptist. They were 7-1. A net of 72 coming in, a Ken Palma 128, so a pretty good basketball team. They won in Corvallis on the weekend, led Colorado 23-9 early on Monday, and BYU just lit them up last night. I mean, it was never a ball game. So, and the Cougs are playing without Dawson Baker out for the year, without Nate Pickens out for the year. Dominique Diomande was sick and didn't play last night. So they were shorthanded and just took care of business against Cal Baptist. 30-ish point win. AJ DeBonsa was outstanding. 16 points in the first half. Keba Keita had double figures in the first half. There's a big three on this team: DeBonsa, Saunders, and Rob Wright. But Keba is really emerging as a force inside. Kennard Davis Jr., they call him Moo. Moo was big. All 5 BYU starters double figures last night. This is a really good starting 5. Last year's team was kind of like they had 2 starting 5s. They had like a group of 5 off the bench and a group of 5 they would start. This year's team is different. The depth isn't there, but the quality of that starting 5 high right now, and that big 3 is as good as any top trio in the country. They scored 70 between the 3 of them in the win over Dayton on Friday, and they're averaging between 55 and 60 points a game anyway on a nightly basis. It's a fun team to watch, and AJ, I mean, he's a pro. I mean, he makes pro shots, and he did last night over and over again. Fun night at the Delta Center. It'll be good to get back at the Marriott Center. We've had only 2 home games all year. We're on a run of 6 consecutive neutral court games right now. The 6th of 6 is next Tuesday at Madison Square Garden against Clemson. Another big name, big game. Then we'll come back and get back into Provo. But sorry, long answer to your short question.
No.
Basketball's been fun. They're 7-1. It's been a blast.
Great stuff as always from Greg Wrubell, voice of BYU. And let me just add real quick. I appreciate your effort in trying to figure out why the committee has BYU ranked where they do. I think it's fairly simple. Notre Dame is going to get in every year where they have 2 losses or less. It's just, I mean, every conference has representation, and then Notre Dame has its own representation. It's a joke. It's egregious, but they're going to get in every year. So it's not, we could sit here and say it's because of the Texas Tech loss, but it's nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with Notre Dame, and it's sad, and it makes no sense, but that's what it is.
Yeah. And the committee chair, in the talking points about Notre Dame the other day, said, well, they've won 10 straight. Well, they should win 10 straight games. With that schedule, they should be winning the games they're winning. But they lost their first 2. Then they got into games they can win, and they've won them, right? BYU had a much tougher road to go. You're playing in a conference. Stakes are much higher on a week-to-week basis. Notre Dame did what it should do, quite frankly.
Yes.
But I also think BYU did what it should do. I mean, if you're a power conference team with 1 loss, and your only loss is to a top 4 team on the road, you're still a really good football team. And to hold you behind 3 2-loss teams is kind of egregious. And a lot will have to happen to change the committee's minds, because they don't look like the kind of group to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right. And look, I mean, I said it when they were 0-2. When Notre Dame was 0-2, I said they're going to run the table from here on out and get to the playoff. And it just sucks that it's coming right now at the expense of BYU. And this idea of like, well, they just have to go and win it. It's like, well, I mean, they've won 11 of the 12 games they played. They've won, 22 of 23, 25?
22 of 25, 22 and 3 in the last 2 years, yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable.
You're not talking about some G6 scrub trying to make a case here to play with the big boys. They are one of the big boys,
right?
And they're playing like it. And I thought the credit would be there. So funny, in all the years of Mountain West and independence, the thought was, well, if they ever got into a power conference, they won't have to deal with this again. Well, they're dealing with this again.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, totally right. Greg, can't wait to see you in Dallas, in Arlington. Appreciate your time as always,
Yep.
and go get him on Saturday. Should be a fun game.
All right, James, always a pleasure. Producer Will, appreciate you, and we'll do it again soon. Thanks, guys.
It's Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Special thanks to Greg Wrubell, the voice of the BYU Cougars. He'll be on the call for tomorrow's Big 12 championship game at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Sellout crowd expecting standing room only and over 100,000 people attending the Big 12's Natty. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, Edgar and Anthony, keeping us up and on the airwaves here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. We'll have Chris Budden here in about 20 minutes, the ESPN sideline reporter, also a host on Sirius XM, the college sports channel station there. But the path to a Big 12 championship for BYU and Texas Tech. For BYU, it feels like win and you're in, a loss and probably on the outside looking in, depending upon style points, if you will. Which brings me to our Modelo fan rules for this Friday.
Okay.
Number 18, if your team wins back-to-back games, you're legally allowed to say, we're back. We are so back.
So back.
So back. It's one of our favorite things. And then rule number 16, preseason rankings are personal attacks. And I think BYU Nation would have something to say about that.
Yes.
Nobody gets ranked lower than where they finish in the history of college football than BYU, and once again we see it play out in similar fashion with them having a much better resume than several teams ranked higher than them in the college football playoff rankings.
And look, you and I both were very down on BYU heading into this season, and for obvious reasons, but I think I had them 8th or 9th in the Big 12 preseason. I don't know where you had them. I think you had them lower.
Yeah.
And, I mean, look, this was a team that won a bunch of games last year and lost its starting quarterback right before the season started. And not just that, but I think when you look deeper, you wondered if some of these things defensively they did last year could carry over, and they have. They found a quarterback who I think is maybe better than the guy they had last year, certainly has a higher ceiling as a true freshman in Bear Bachmeier, but also the pieces that maybe we didn't know would carry over year to year on the defensive side in terms of turnovers and punt return touchdowns and stuff that has managed to carry over. They've won in different ways. They're obviously well coached. And I think it's not just Kalani Sitake. It's Aaron Roderick as the offensive coordinator. It's Jay Hill as the defensive coordinator.
And the thing about their resume that blows my mind is typically this time of year we are debating the teams that are ranked in this spot, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and comparing those teams. With BYU and their resume, they have things on their resume that are better than anybody else in the country. They have 4 road wins against bowl-eligible teams, tied with Oregon for the most in the country. More than Oklahoma, more than Alabama, more than Notre Dame, more than Indiana, more than Ohio State. They have 6 wins against FBS opponents with winning records. Most in the college football playoff, tied with Ohio State. They have more than Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Indiana. Like, they have things on their resume that nobody else has. They have 8 double-digit wins. That's more than Alabama and Oklahoma. They're one of only 2 teams in the field whose only loss came on the road against a top 10 opponent. The other team is Ole Miss. Like, they're right up there with everybody else, 1 through 12, not just 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Everybody else that is a lock for the field.
Look, we recognize that it is egregious that they still need to win this game in order to secure a spot. It is. It's egregious. And we know, if we want to point directly to Notre Dame and say, why do they have their own representation in the playoff? That's a big reason why Notre Dame's in. Notre Dame's going to get in every year. They have 2 or less losses. Notre Dame started 0-2, and we said on this show, they're going to run the table and get into the playoff. The Big 12, hopefully, this year can carry some of the momentum that they've built into next year, and you hope that the future looks a lot more optimistic in terms of the perception of the league. Now, there's no guarantees. It doesn't mean it's any less BS. It doesn't mean we shouldn't complain about it, but that's just, we know it's egregious. I mean, you have Greg Sankey telling Inside Texas in a quote that, what we think there should be 7 SEC teams that make the playoff. I mean, it's a joke. And, it's almost as if they want the Big 12 and every other league to just, thank them for being included in some capacity. despite the fact that we've got at least 2 teams that are on the same level as some of these SEC teams that are so big, bad, and incredible. I mean, in the same way that BYU was not even part of the playoff conversation last year. Remember, like, nobody was complaining about BYU last year, even though they probably should have been. Yeah. I mean, SMU got in despite having a loss to BYU, but nobody was talking about BYU. Utah's in the same boat this year. Like, nobody's even talking about Utah as a playoff team. And, I mean, they've got a pretty decent case to make. The only 2 losses they have this year are to BYU and to Texas Tech.
Yep.
They're not even mentioned as a team. And meanwhile, like, it's just a foregone conclusion that, the SEC needs 5, 6, 7 teams in. Like, what? That's the part that it's like the SEC doesn't even settle in on the field because some of these teams that are in this conversation aren't even playing each other. Most of these teams are, A&M is the best example of it. Oklahoma, too, to a degree, but they did beat Alabama, which is good for them. But they are bloating their wins and their resumes with bad SEC teams that we're supposed to believe is this incredibly hard gauntlet. It's the same gauntlet in the Big 12 then. If you're playing Georgia and Oklahoma and A&M and but you're playing South Carolina and Auburn and
Mississippi State and Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, like, come on. Vanderbilt's good this year.
They are good this year.
Usually that's a good throw-in to the bad teams in the SEC, but this year it's not the case.
Replace them with Florida.
Yeah, there you go.
Florida's bad.
A team that Texas lost to. Somehow we're arguing that Texas should be the playoff with 3 losses and a loss. Like, that's a joke. They're even arguing for Texas to get in over Utah. Texas has 3 losses, including 1 to Florida State. I know they lost to Ohio State. Great job. Good job, good effort. You went up to Columbus and you lost. Thank you. Yeah. No, it's a joke. They have 3 losses, and people are like, Texas should be in. What? Why? Utah's only 2 losses are the 2 best teams that are playing in the conference championship game.
And with Texas, I applaud them for playing Ohio State. Like, I have no problem with that. In fact, that's kind of a throwaway game for me. For me, it's losing on the road at a Florida team without a coach and a team that's not going to make a bowl game. Okay, that's the game that we highlight versus Ohio State. You played Ohio State to a touchdown in a 14-7 game. Okay, awesome. Won't hurt you. Won't penalize you for that. But I'll penalize you for a loss to a Florida team that's not going to play in a bowl. I'll penalize you for an overtime walk-off field goal win against a Kentucky team that's not sniffing a bowl game and will have a new coach next year, or a close win against Mississippi State, and then losses to other teams that you could have beaten. The storylines in the Big 12 for the Big 12 championship game, BYU and Texas Tech. This is the first time ever that Texas Tech has played the same team twice in one season because this is their first Big 12 championship game appearance. In 101 years, it's never happened until now. Texas Tech is the nation's most lopsided team. They've got 11 wins by 20 or more points.
Wow. Only
the 6th team in the last 100 years to do that. They led the nation in margin of victory at 35.2 points per game. Oh, and their one loss, they didn't have their starting quarterback. Jacob Rodriguez, the season he's had. But the big thing about Saturday, the stakes with the college football playoff and the positioning on the line for Texas Tech to stay in the top 4, controlling its destiny for a first-round bye. And can Texas Tech do it again? Leaning on their defense, they held BYU to 255 total yards, by far a season low for the Cougs. Only 67 yards rushing in the first meeting, but L.J. Martin was not healthy. That Texas Tech defense, the number 1 scoring defense in the Big 12, giving up just 11 points per game.
Yeah, I mean, the game within the game here, to me, is that number 1 rush defense for Texas Tech, led by Jacob Rodriguez. If you are lucky enough to get past that first level of that defensive line, you've got, the best linebacking core in the nation, led by Jacob Rodriguez there in the second level to clean it up. It's that L.J. Martin, Bear Bachmeier rushing attack for BYU versus that number 1 rush defense for Texas Tech. Remember, L.J. Martin had 10 for 35 in this first matchup after returning from injury, and a big piece to that is that also impacts Bear Bachmeier's running ability too. When LJ's going, that allows, that keeps defenses honest in terms of having to account for Bear. If LJ's not going, then Bear's less effective. So I think that's the game within the game here tomorrow is Bear Bachmeier and L.J. Martin, that combined rushing attack against the number 1 rush defense in the country.
BYU and Texas Tech, you can hear it here on Big 12 Radio. It starts at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central from AT&T Stadium in Arlington. More on this matchup in a bit, but we shift gears and talk with Chris Budden from ESPN. She will be on the sidelines for this Big 12 championship game. She joins us around the corner. He's Ariam James, and this is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, powered by Modelo. It's Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, your official home for the Big 12. Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. With Ari, I'm James, and we welcome in She'll be on the call Saturday. Tomorrow for BYU and Texas Tech, Chris Budden from ESPN, sideline reporter for college football, college basketball, college baseball, from right here in Dallas. Chris, good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Hey, give us a little, peek behind the curtain in terms of what this week has been like for you behind the scenes, preparing for this broadcast, and any nuggets from BYU and Texas Tech. We're super amped for this game tomorrow.
Well, peek behind the curtain. It's also basketball season. So it was the ACC SEC Challenge this week. So I was also in Duke, in Durham, covering a game there Tuesday. But this is different from a sideline reporter aspect because Katie George will be on the call as well, and she's going to have Tech sideline. I'm going to have BYU sideline. So when all this stuff about Kalani started coming up in the, early portions of the week, and, this coaching carousel has been so crazy, you're wondering, Monday, Tuesday morning, like I have BYU sidelines. Is Kalani going to be there? And so it was fascinating to, in the middle of prepping for a game and all the ins and outs that go in a game, you're also covering a coaching search at the same time. So that we didn't see coming, but luckily by Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, that all kind of got put to bed.
Yeah, Chris, from a BYU perspective, obviously the Kalani Sitake news is piece is a part of it, but I guess what, aside from that, like what else stands out to you about like the big story from the BYU side of things?
I think the way that they view this as a playoff game, like they when we talked to them on the phone Wednesday night, they're like, yeah, being in the playoffs, and they don't mean playoffs like they're in the CFP, but they view this as a playoff. Like it is their playoff. It just starts 1 week earlier. And because it is win or go home. And, they struggled to be able to move the football last time out. And I think they feel like there was a lot left on the table. But I also know when they left that meeting against Tech, it was like the Tech players were coming up to them and be like, hey, we'll see you again. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Like there was this acknowledgement that we're the two best teams in the league and we're going to get a rematch. And to me, it's going through what went wrong, diagnosing it, and knowing you got to get off to a faster start. And it'll be a lot different there'll be heavily Texas Tech fans there, but it won't be as loud and crazy like you heard it in Lubbock a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. Talking with Chris Budden from ESPN, what have been your impressions of BYU's freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, and just what he's been able to accomplish this season and what he needs to do better this second time around against Texas Tech?
Well, they got to get the run game going that can open things up. I mean, Texas Tech has, one of the best pass rushes in the country. It's fascinating just to watch his growth and like what they have done offensively. Because before it was Bear's job, like they were going to go up tempo. They had worked on that all throughout the spring. And then when Retzlaff leaves, it's, I don't know that we can do this with a freshman quarterback. And then you have just such a unique character in him, of how he grew up and, wearing number 47 and like this linebacker, running back mentality that he has. It's funny, I asked him on the phone, I was like, what do you hope that opponents see when they see you across the field wearing 47 as a quarterback? And he goes, I hope that they get scared. I hope that they have fear. And for a freshman, who on that team, like he's leading 25-year-olds, so that's an interesting dynamic. But just how quickly it all came together. And, we talk with coaches. I think it's interesting part of would this have been so successful if the coach-to-player communication wasn't like it is now, and their ability to talk to him and the ability to huddle and to be able to keep him calm and to be able to make those reads. And I think that they will be a lot more successful this time around. They talked about in Lubbock the struggles with the communication. It was so loud that they had to go to a silent cadence. So I do expect them to be a lot more efficient this time.
Chris, I'm curious, from a national perspective, has the narrative changed or started to shift in your mind? Certainly as somebody that lives in this market too, that's very heavy Big 12. Like the Big 12 was way more top heavy this year than it's been in years past, where it was more of a league of parity. It was like anybody can win. Now when you look at the top, like it's clear who the teams are at the top. Like, do you think that there's a shift a bit in the perception of this league based on what happened this year?
I do, and I think it's twofold. I think it's the development of this league, how deep it is, and how good the top is. I mean, we have been talking since week 2 or 3 of the season. Can the Big 12 get 2 to 3 teams in? But I think you're also having the downfall of the ACC at the same time because the big brands in the ACC didn't hold their water this year. So has opened up the door for the Big 12 to move in and say, hey, we are the number 3 conference in the country. And honestly, top to bottom, if it wasn't for Ohio State and Indiana, like for as great as the Big 10 is at the very, very top, the rest of the league is very watered down. And so I do think that the Big 12 is getting credit for the strength of it as a whole.
What do you think are, I guess, the biggest keys or areas that you lean into from the Texas Tech side? I know that you're going to be on the BYU sideline, but for Texas Tech, how do they repeat what they did the first go around?
I mean, I think they want to be better than the first go around, honestly. Like, and everything that Joey McGuire has said this week is like, there's no like, we won this game, like we're good. Like there was mistakes, like the amount of, times they were in the red zone and couldn't convert. Like, I don't know that you can get away with that this time around. And him talking about, his high school coaching days in this state and replaying teams in the state championships. It's so rare in our sport and with how big these super leagues are that you get a rematch against someone so quickly and just a couple weeks later. So, what I think for them, they still felt like they had a lot left on the table in that game. And it's not just like, hey, we're good. There was a lot that they still wanted to improve upon. And they did. I mean, like you look at how much they outscored opponents after that game, and it was, hey, we got to get this fixed by the time we get to Arlington.
Chris Budden from ESPN joining us here, one of the best in the business, breaking down the Big 12 championship game, which will be on the call at 11 a.m. Central on ABC. Chris, thoughts on if BYU is able to pull the upset here, what will happen? What needs to happen?
I think there needs to be patience on the offense. They have to be able to run the ball better than they did last time. I think defensively, they did what they needed to do. If you came away and you said, hey, we forced 5 field goals, but you got to be able to get takeaways defensively. And so to me, those are the 2 things that need to be corrected. And you have to get off to a fast start. Like you can't get down 14-0. It's not a team that I think against this Tech defense and you got to stay ahead of the chains. Like with that pass rush, you can't be looking at, 3rd and long. And so you just got to be able to chip away and helps with the run game.
Chris, you mentioned that you spoke with the coaches and Bear earlier this week. Any other players that you sat down with and any insight you can add that maybe you got from them as they get ready for this one?
Yeah, talk to Bear. I talked to Tanner Hall, one of their defense. I just love talking to BYU players. Like they're older and they all just have an incredibly different perspective than so many of the college athletes that we cover day to day. Like he works with a numerous amount of charities, and one of the ones that he works with is he helps teach English to people overseas, but not just regular English, like for people that are going to try and become, get in the world of business, of teaching them English, like business acumen, and helping them prepare for interviews and all the missions that these guys take. Like it is really a team of, 24, 25-year-olds. They're married, some have kids, and it's just a very different, unique culture when you talk to those players versus, the average college football teams on a day-to-day that we talk to.
Chris is also a proud alumnus of the University of Missouri, and it's funny. Chris always jokes that she's so close with her sister. Her sister decided to go to Kansas because she went to Mizzou. Who wins Sunday, Chris and Lawrence?
Oh gosh, well, it's in Kansas City, right?
Oh yeah, KC.
I think it's at T-Mobile.
Yeah.
God, are they gonna have Darren Peterson back? I don't know. Like he's close to being healthy. I will say that I haven't watched a ton of Mizzou. I will say for Kansas that they've played that well against all these teams throughout Feast Week. I had them, and it was a loss against Duke, but they still played really well.
Yeah.
And they've been able to do it without Peterson. I'm excited. Hopefully, I get the understanding that it's, you don't want to rush a hamstring. But man, as a fan of college basketball and all the star freshmen that we have, it would be really cool to watch him on the court. But he's building a heck of a thing. Like it's It's been a down couple years for Bill's self standards. I would
Yes.
expect them to win this coming weekend, but I don't know. Like, do I? This is where it's hard for me. Like, I can't say that I like Kansas because my degree might get taken away. But I really do enjoy Bill Self and that team.
All right, Ari, sounds like Kansas by 20 is the call. So that's my takeaway. Chris, thank you so much for your time and your insight as you get ready for this massive game in the Big 12, the Big 12 championship. We appreciate you coming on with us.
Yep, no problem, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Take
Chris,
care.
Chris Budden from ESPN, their lead sideline reporter for all of their college basketball coverage. She'll be on the sidelines of the Big 12 championship football game tomorrow at AT&T Stadium over in Arlington.
By the way, just looking at Mizzou's schedule, so they just lost their first game of the season to Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Notre Dame, of course, lost to Kansas without Darren Peterson. But what's funny is they've played Howard, Southeast Missouri, Virginia Military Institute, Minnesota, Prairie View, South Dakota, SC State, Cleveland State. I mean, they played nobody, and including multiple HBCUs, which is interesting, like South Carolina State, Prairie View, and Howard. But yeah, Kansas should win this game with or without Darren Peterson, if I'm being quite honest.
Gauntlet schedule.
Yeah, no kidding.
The Tigers.
Yeah.
This
SEC gauntlet schedule there for the Mizzou Tigers in the state of Missouri.
This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. We dive back into the Big 12 championship game around the corner. John Pardee is going to be the halftime performance. More on him. And who are the most important players in tomorrow's Big 12 title matchup between BYU and Texas Tech? This is Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, brought to you by Modelo. You can hear this live tomorrow at the Big 12 championship game between BYU and Texas Tech. The Big 12 announcing that John Pardee is going to be the headliner for the championship game halftime show. He is the first country artist ever to take this halftime slot at the Big 12 championship game here in Dallas, home of the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. And from a kid singing karaoke with his grandma in Dixon, California, to headlining major stadium events, he has a really cool story. Both marching bands, as we get you set for kickoff, will be on the field with him. And John Pardee, this is a big deal for John and for the Big 12.
It's awesome. And I didn't really know who John Pardee was because I'm not on the up and up with modern pop music for the most part. But once he was announced, I started listening to his music, and he's got some bangers.
Ain't nothing that a big might have a little.
You've never been older as you dance through those tracks from John.
You aren't
Pardee.
watching us on Big 12 Studios. You're not really getting the show.
I'm getting a show. It's a show I never want to see again, but I have had it and I'm here for it.
You know,
Right.
our setup, if you're watching us, so I've kind of mirrored your setup. I used to have my table with my laptop a little bit off centered, and I'm a little bit too I'm too enclosed.
Okay.
I get a little claustrophobic with this setup.
You want to explore the space.
Especially when John Pardee starts playing. man.
Actually, I like your setup. I think it looks really good visually. We look more symmetrical in kind of the setup that we have.
Good.
So I'm here for it.
There you go.
I'm a fan. But John Pardee, one thing interesting about him is he talked about he actually gets some serious nerves before big shows like this.
I still get the same nervous energy feeling that I would get before a game, like before a show, you know, getting out there. I remember the feelings in the locker room, you know, going over the plays, and then the Friday night crowd, and everything's nervous. And
yeah. Do you still get that before shows?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's more of a, like, we have, you know, our shows range from 4,000 seats to 18,000 seats. Like, it's just like we're touring, we're out building audience still, you know. And my mentality is like, I got to play the best game, or I got to play the best show, so I can prove myself that I'm just as good as everybody else as an entertainer. And it's the same as an athlete. I can prove that I'm the best tight end in the Big 12 because I have to, you know, like, it's just, that's
great
mentality. It's just a different, you know.
So that's John Pardee, who's on with our colleague and friend Stormy Warren. Stormy Warren, the Big 615. You can catch that Monday through Friday from 7 to 11 a.m. Central. And you can also catch the full interview that Stormy had with John Pardee on, just search for Stormy Podcast, Stormy Warren Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
The Stormy Cast.
The Stormy Cast, thank you. But what's interesting is, like, Stormy is, like, I mean, he's a good friend of Garth Brooks. They go way back, and he's in with all of these country music artists in a big way. Like, they do this interview. At the end of the interview, he's like, "I love you," and he's like, "I love you, man." Like that's amazing, you know. And, like, just a really cool interview, really good insight that you're just not going to get anywhere else. Like, if we interviewed John Pardee, it wouldn't be the same because Stormy has that, you know, that familiarity and that relationship. But yeah, they were talking about playing football and what their football careers were like, and he mentioned that Pardee mentioned that he tore his ACL in his junior year of high school and stopped playing then. And Stormy said something along the lines of, like, you know, do you still think about your old football days? And he's like, no, not really. But he says, but that's what he said, I still get nervous when I play shows in the same way that I got nervous before football games. And he mentioned there, like, he plays, like, you know, arenas that are 7,000 to 18,000. He's about to play for 100,000 people.
Yeah.
This is going to be the biggest performance he's ever played.
Mm-hmm. Small town America, country music, and football. Friday night.
In the Big 12.
Football.
Not a bunch of big cities. I mean, it's a bunch of small towns. That's what the Big 12 is.
Special thanks to Stormy Warren, Monday through Friday on the Big 615 right here on TuneIn, 7 to 1 p.m. Central Time. You can catch the full interview with John Pardee on his podcast, The Stormy Cast. Pardee started writing songs at around age 12. He's from Dixon, California. He moved to Nashville back in 2008 when he was 23 and worked a bunch of just regular jobs trying to make it in the industry. He did ranch work. He worked at a grocery store, and then he popped. And now you recognize his music, whether you like country or not, because he's one of the biggest names out there in that genre of music.
You like country?
It's okay. I don't hate it. I don't seek it out, but I don't hate it. I'm not a country music hater by any means, but there's probably 2, 3, 4 other genres that I lean into. What about you?
I mean, I love all music. I really do. Like, if you checked out the music that was on my phone, it would range from, John Coltrane and Miles Davis to Tupac and Kendrick Lamar. But, and yes, I mean, I'm a big fan of, like, classic country, like Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash and, Willie Nelson and, so. But I do, like, I got into John Pardee. Sturgill Simpson and Chris Stapleton, too, modern pop country music artists that I really like. So, yeah, I like it all. I think every type of music has there's its own moods for everything. Like, when I'm prepping for a show, I listen to some classical music, a little Chopin, some Beethoven, even some modern classical. And then, you get into some jazz. But you're driving, I like hip-hop when I'm driving.
What is modern classical? And how does it differ from traditional classical?
Well, there's current musicians that are making classical music.
Yeah, but does it sound...
Beethoven isn't making any more music. He's dead.
Call him Beethoven. Does it sound different? Like, does it sound more modern?
That's what we're listening to right now. This is some modern... Who's that? Who is that, Edgar?
I like it.
I can't pronounce the names. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And that's why, like, I'm glad...
Zimmer?
No, not even that. Like, there's some that it's like, I listen, I'm like, I have no idea how to say that name. But no, like... Obviously, when Beethoven was composing music, or Mozart, like the musical technologies, the thing about modern music is, I think it's better than it's ever been because of the technologies that are available to us. So you have so much available to you to be able to make incredible music. So I think, like, some of the music that's being made today is the best music that's ever been made, just based on technology. It's funny, I contrast that. I think it's the exact opposite with movies and TV shows. There's such an over-inflation of content that it's like they're just churning out a bunch of crap.
Yeah, what else is there to do? Like, we've run out of ideas.
And not only that, but, like, we've talked a lot about this where they don't even make shows with, like, that have, like, a traditional narrative arc where it's like a beginning, middle, and end. Shows are made open-ended so that they can continue as long as they're kept alive. So, yeah, that's my little soapbox on music and movies and TV shows today. But, like, we also have to then give our flowers to, like, the Beethovens, the Mozarts, the Beatles, right? Like, going further in history because, they created the modern music that exists today. They just didn't have the same technologies. Like, when we think about, like, some of the stuff that the Beatles were doing when they were recording their music, famously in A Day in the Life, the song by the Beatles, there's a moment where you hear like a alarm going off, like a bell alarm going off, which they actually had to do when recording to tell them when to start. But it fits the music and they kept it in. But it's like things that, like, you don't have to do now, or you could stop. Like, they had to record straight through, and if there was any issues in the recording, they had to stop and re-record it. They couldn't, insert different things and tracks and use computers to do it. So it's, again, just I think the modern music that's being made today is the best music that's ever been made. That doesn't mean we diminished what Mozart and Beethoven did. It almost gives them more appreciation because they didn't have those same technologies available to them.
Absolutely. We got my dad a Beatles t-shirt for Christmas last year, and I swear every time I see that man, he's rocking that Beatles shirt. I think it's the only t-shirt that he wears.
What is it, an album cover? Do you even know?
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to think which album.
Abbey Road, Rubber Soul.
I think it's Abbey Road.
Yeah, that
sounds right.
It's the one where they're walking across the street.
It's that one.
Yeah.
It's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good shirt. It's a good album. Abbey
Nice.
Road Studios. Don't walk across the street and take a picture. It's
Nice
a very
little
busy street there.
Cotton
in the
poly
UK.
blend, very cozy. All right, keys to victory for BYU and Texas Tech tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. There's a Big 12 championship game to
There
talk
is a
about.
game. There is a game. There will be music at halftime, and that'll be big with John Pardee in the Pardee Pit. Can't wait to see you in the Pardee Pit.
I'll be the one with my shirt off.
Doing like crowd surfing, moshing, doing the whole thing. For BYU, we talked about how they have to get the running game.
Brett Yormark's to be like, all right, we told you to keep your pants on in the party pit. Okay, that's not excuse. That's inexcusable.
I think you go shirt on, pants off.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the move. So they'll have to establish L.J. Martin. We know that. He's going to have a huge game. Protecting the football. Like, BYU had 3 turnovers in that game, plus a muffed punt. So really 4. And BYU entered that first matchup. They were top 3 nationally in turnover margin, and they gave it away 4 times in Lubbock, which led to a ton of short fields. The field position rate was a huge discrepancy in favor of Texas Tech, and I think some of that comes down to, like, remember we talked going into that game about the moment for BYU and their inexperienced quarterback. He's still a freshman. Now he's a dozen games in, so he's no longer a freshman, but it circles back for me to the moment for BYU, and the start of these games can be really shaky because there's so many nerves, and John Pardee talks about being nervous for the halftime show. Think about what the players are going to be going through those first couple of drives and trying to shake off and get all those butterflies and all that adrenaline out and not overcorrect and play within your assignment. So the start of this game, I think, is going to be really big for both teams. And last year, remember, Arizona State got on Iowa State early. They had a big stretch, and all of a sudden it's a blowout. So that, for me, is kind of like one of those intangible things that I'm really anxious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, look, going back to the game in Lubbock, I mean, BYU's defense forces a 3-and-out. They get a punt, and then they muff the punt. And, I mean, it was like that was just the perfect encapsulation of how that game would go. And, look, I think there are a lot of guys we could highlight here. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, L.J. Martin, I expect him to have a better game than 10 for 35. But to me, the most important player in this game, aside from the obvious ones, and L.J. Martin and Bear Bachmeier, is Parker Kingston. Okay, Kingston's the guy that muffed the punt that started this thing in Lubbock.
Which is very un-Parker Kingston-like.
Yeah, he's a legit weapon, and especially, like, he's their leading receiver. Chase Roberts is, like, the most experienced, best receiver they probably have. The biggest, more of a possession guy, has a big playability, but he's coming off an injury and didn't play last week. So how effective he's going to be? Kingston, to me, is the most important player because, I mean, he's a guy that can take the top off. He's a big-time player waiting to happen. And not only that, but, like, in the punt return game, like, he can impact the game in so many different ways. And, like, when I talked earlier this week about the importance for, BYU to get their passing game going, like, he's the kind of guy where if you're trying to get, pass on first down and get the ball out quick and, like, a screen game, short yardage, like, he's the guy you're going to. So I think if BYU is going to win this game, Parker Kingston's going to have a big game. That's why I think, aside from, like, Bear Bachmeier is important, no duh. L.J. Martin's important, of course. But to me, Parker Kingston's the most important guy because he's the guy that can, if he has a big game, BYU is going to win this game.
And he has solid numbers. I wouldn't say elite numbers, and I wouldn't say modest numbers. He has 57 grabs, over 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. But he is a game breaker.
But he does have more yardage than Chase Roberts, right?
For this season, I don't have Roberts
Okay,
pulled
sorry.
up.
You said he had how many yards?
804.
I thought I looked this up and saw it, but I just want to confirm. Go ahead.
But I think you're onto something with him being massively underrated.
Yeah, 713 for Roberts, 44 for 713 this year. 5 touchdowns.
And that's their 1-2 punch. And their numbers don't say elite NFL-type wide receivers, but they are. And Parker Kingston, I think one of the most underrated aspects of him is that he's a home run hitter. Like, he's a big play waiting to happen. The 4th and 3 against UCF totally swung the game when he races 60 yards to the house. He's a former Utah high school track star. Shattered records in high school out of Roy High School. A sub-11 flat track speed in high school. So he's underrated in that aspect too. And he's one of the most dynamic punt and kick returners in the country. But he's one guy that if you're not aware of where he is at all times, he's one missed tackle away from totally flipping a game. So I like that you highlighted him for BYU. The other kind of, I wouldn't say one player, but area for BYU is their offensive line, because we know how dominant Texas Tech's defensive front is. They have an offensive line where, number one, they've started the same 5 guys almost the entire season. Number two, they've got, of those 5, each and every one of them with anywhere from 30 to 40 career games played at BYU. They are massive in terms of their average height and weight is 6'6", over 300 pounds. They're top 20 in the country in sacks allowed. They're strong in obviously paving the way for LJ Martin. They're just incredibly flexible and durable. They move guys around depending upon what set they're operating with, and they're top 10 in the country in time of possession, which you can't do that if you don't have an offensive line that's getting a good push.
Yeah, and I think these are two very similar teams. They have good quarterbacks, but they're not counting on their quarterbacks to be elite.
There's not a Caleb Williams on the field tomorrow.
They're good. They're both really good on their offensive and defensive lines. They're very run dependent in terms of the overall success of their offense. They're built to win on defense. I mean, BYU is really good on third down defensively. They're good in the red zone. And they tend to make enough splash plays in a game to keep defenses honest. So in some ways, I hate the term mirror image, because I have this thing about when you look at a mirror, it's actually the exact opposite, right? It's got you flipped. So I always thought talk about a team being a mirror image of another team and saying it's the same is not actually what it is when you look into a mirror, but I digress.
What a weird phenomenon. I'm serious. I've seen my wife look in the mirror, and then I look at her, and I'm like, she looks totally different. Just a side note, what we see in the mirror is not what we see. Edgar, I'm looking at you.
It's true. It's true, and it's literally a flipped version. It's the exact. But it's funny we say mirror image, meaning the same, but it's not.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
In fact, you could argue that a mirror image, the definition of it should be the exact opposite.
Yeah, it really wigs me out.
So I'm always reluctant to say mirror image, because again, I don't think that makes any sense. But they're similar. They're the Spider-Man memes pointing at each other, and I think the thing that's maybe most similar is this is the biggest game in the history of both of these programs. This is the biggest game in the history of both of these programs.
Yeah, remember Texas Tech in 2008, by the way, the Crabtree catch, the win over number 1 Texas. They still didn't play in the Big 12 championship game that year, despite an 11-1 record. They didn't have the tiebreaker over Oklahoma.
It's also, there's an important piece here. When Texas was in the Big 12, Texas Tech's ceiling was always Texas. So, no matter what they did, they couldn't get past, Big Brother in that sense. Now they've got their own, they've charted their own path in a way. Because Texas was always we had to beat Texas. That was the Super Bowl. That was why their ceiling was always Texas. And they could have better seasons, and Texas had some down years, but, just on the whole, that was always the ceiling for Tech. And for many of these teams in Texas. A&M probably felt the same way when they were in Big Brother's shadow when Texas was in the Big 12. So now, it's totally different now. The dynamic is different. The power dynamic is different. Texas had the power in that. Now Texas Tech finds itself in the power position. That's why I think this is the biggest game in program history, because they're not measuring themselves against another program in the state. They're measuring themselves against all of the programs across the country in terms of being totally elite.
Yeah. Well said. It is. It's the biggest game for both teams. Totally agree. Coming up next, we'll look at the Texas Tech side. Also, some Big 12 round ball. That's Big 12 basketball, because outside of the Big 12 championship, it is a loaded slate tomorrow for Big 12 men's basketball. A ton of key matchups. We'll touch on that as well. And then in hour number 3, we'll be joined by Chris Level from the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network. He joined us earlier this week to preview this matchup. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo and on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Friday Fever. Getting ready for the Big 12 Championship game tomorrow at noon Eastern, 11 Central. You can hear it right here on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn.
What was that one called?
Heartache on the Dance Floor.
Nice. That's a good one.
Heartache on the Dance Floor.
Get that violin going. Sounds great.
Yes, it does.
Sorry, that was all I had to say.
I am floored by how much of a John Pardee fan you have become.
Just a fan of music, man. I'm a fan of good music. I like new music. I like to hear
I'm
new
going to
music.
start sending you some jams.
You should do that.
Good jam out.
She was a heartache on the dance floor.
It's big time. That's big time. That's John Pardee. He's going to be the halftime show tomorrow at the Big 12 Championship at AT&T Stadium. He'll be
Can't wait.
performing. I can't wait to see how they.
Are you excited to see him, John Pardee?
It's going to be huge. Yes,
12 Championship
thrilled.
tomorrow?
Cannot wait. Live in person, and how he's going to integrate the marching bands will also be exciting. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, it will be.
All right, tomorrow the
What do
Big.
you want me to say? You looked at me like I had something to say there.
That I thought.
No,
you'd
it's
make
going
fun
to be
of me a
really.
little
I
bit
mean,
more.
that aspect of it, like watching it last year with Neo, was really cool, and it's going to be even cooler this year, I bet, because this will be year 2 of them incorporating the marching bands. It's going to be amazing.
So before we look at the Texas Tech angle, Chris Level's going to join us here in about 15 from the Texas Tech. He'll be on the sidelines for the Big 12 Championship, courtesy of the Red Raider Radio Network. I just wanted to note some of the Big 12 basketball matchups, not to be overlooked for this weekend. So tonight on TNT, I believe this is their Big 12 basketball debut between Cincinnati and Xavier, crosstown rivalry. That game is at Xavier.
It's a big-time matchup.
And then Notre Dame's played like a dozen schools from the Big 12, it feels like already. Notre Dame and TCU tonight in Fort Worth. Starts at 7 o'clock Central Time. Another opportunity for TCU to kind of put that New Orleans loss in the rear view, because they've got some major power conference wins in men's basketball since, and another chance tonight against Notre Dame. And then tomorrow, have you seen the slate for tomorrow? Kansas State plays Seton Hall. Iowa State plays Purdue at noon Eastern, 11 Central. Iowa State climbed into the top 10 this week in men's basketball. Baylor plays Memphis at FedEx Forum. That's the NBA arena. And then Colorado plays Colorado State. Colorado is 8-0. And Wake Forest and West Virginia. You also have Florida State and Houston on Peacock and YouTube TV on the NBC network at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Playing that one at the Toyota Center in Houston. And then Auburn and Arizona on ESPN at 10 Eastern. That is at Arizona, a true home game for them. And then Oklahoma and Arizona State in Phoenix tomorrow night at 10 Eastern. Loaded.
Yeah, some good ones. And then Missouri and Kansas play on Sunday. This will be the second or third matchup, I believe, between Missouri and Kansas. Second or third now, with the rivalry returning. And Kansas lost last year at Mizzou. So should be a fun one on Sunday. And we'll see, again, if Darren Peterson's available, if he's 96% or 97% or what percentage that seems completely arbitrary between 0 and 100 he is. So we'll see.
You think he plays?
No.
Same.
I'm at the point where I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Same. Texas Tech plays LSU. That is a listed home game for LSU. It's a neutral game that they're playing in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena, but LSU will be the home team in the matchup. So if you're confused watching that on ESPN2, that's why. Texas Tech fell to number 19 in this week's AP Top 25. So a loaded college basketball slate for the Big 12 this weekend as we inch closer to the tip-off of Big 12 conference play. All right, the Big 12 championship game, speaking of Texas Tech, their path to victory, I think it's easy to look at Texas Tech and say, well, just do what you did the first time, do what you do every Saturday. But a key nugget from that first matchup is their ground game. Their ground game is really what kept their offense on the field, so their defense was well rested. Cameron Dickey had a huge game in that first matchup. He had a touchdown. He had 121 yards in that first go-around. And I think for BYU to be more competitive in this matchup, I don't know, I lean into stopping the ground game, trusting your secondary. They have elite corners. They play a lot of man coverage, and make Baron Morton beat you with his arm.
One of my things with Texas Tech is they haven't really been punched in the mouth very much this year. I mean, they have the one loss to Arizona State. But beyond that, they're used to playing from ahead. So I wonder what happens if they do get punched in the mouth a little bit, because they've spent most of the year playing ahead. I mean, basically every game they played from ahead, basically from the start of these games. They get out, they get to a fast start, they're ahead, and they're up by 20 and 30, and it's over. And I mean, so they're built to like run the football, play defense based on playing with lead. So what happens if they don't? And now they're trying to chase. And is Baron Morton able to make throws in that situation, that environment? I go back to a topic that you talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think, when it came to like elite quarterback play, where you saw like, there's been a time where, the elite of the elite quarterbacks led teams to national championships, and we've seen that. Like Cam Newton had an incredible year. We won a Heisman and led Auburn to a national title. And we also saw Will Howard, with what he did last year for Ohio State. He was good enough, but like they were built to run the ball with an effective running game and a great defense. So that's the way both of these teams feel. And you wonder if because I was thinking about this last night, like, all right, what does that mean in the playoffs? And is this a year where you could get away with maybe not having elite quarterback play? Because I don't think we're going to suddenly get elite quarterback play from either of these guys. They're going to continue to be what they've been, maybe a little bit better, making a little bit more throws. But ultimately, none of these teams are going to win. Neither of these teams are going to win this game or any games in the future in the playoffs, based on elite quarterback play. And if they did, it'd be a huge surprise. They're going to win. So go back to that question of which quarterback can make the throws when forced to? I would think Morton because he's got the experience, but we'll see.
Are there elite quarterbacks anywhere in college football this year? I think if you asked the general public to name the starting quarterback for each of the teams ranked in the top 10, you could maybe get half, if that.
I mean, I think Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, but are they just elite against inferior competition because the Big Ten is so top-heavy this year? But yeah, there's no Cam Newton.
Right. And I think this is probably the second year in a row that you could say that, because Cam Ward wasn't in the college football playoff last year. Shedeur Sanders wasn't in the college football playoff. And going into the NFL draft, those were the big names at that position.
Right.
So you'd really have to go back 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer, to find elite quarterback play where, this guy is going to win you a football game. Now it's the line of scrimmage, elite playmakers at receiver. Those are the guys that are going to win you football games. And that to me...
I mean, yeah, you had Stetson Bennett I'm just going through now. Stetson Bennett winning back-to-back titles at the quarterback at Georgia. I mean, McCarthy was good at Michigan in 23, but how elite was he?
Right.
Was 2 of the quarterback for Bama in 20.
There's not a Joe Burrow walking in the door.
Yeah, Burrow's the last one in 18 and 19, then Trevor Lawrence in 18.
So it's shifted, which adds to the narrative that it's more open this year than maybe ever before.
And I would say Stetson Bennett in the 2 years that Georgia won back-to-back was better than anything we have at quarterback right now.
Yeah.
He wasn't elite, but he was more elite than any of the quarterbacks that are currently situated to be in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And Alabama had a string of 8 quarterbacks, maybe in a 2 or 3 year window, because some of those guys were backups that were better than anybody that we've seen on the field the last 2 years. Now let me ask you this about Texas Tech. Does Texas Tech strike you as an explosive offense?
Well, not in a traditional sense. Traditional passing, but they have an explosive run offense, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we think of Texas Tech and those Kingsbury and all those teams with Mahomes and the Graham Harrells, like all those Texas Tech offenses that were putting up 500-600 yards a game. And so we look at this version and we think, well, they're not that explosive. But they are. That's been the shift in college football. There are less explosives than there were 5-10 years ago, definitely 20. Texas Tech leads the nation in explosive plays. They lead the nation. That stunned me. They are the most explosive big play team in America. They've had 85 plays this year of 20 or more yards. They're fourth nationally in explosive passing plays, and they're top 10 nationally in explosive rushing plays. Which, again, you watch them and you think they're not as explosive as maybe they even were last year offensively when they were scoring a little bit more, but the defense was giving up so many points and yards. But they are the most explosive team in the nation.
That's shocking. I mean, and it speaks to what we were just talking about in terms of quarterback play. And, again, I mean, a common theme this year, as much as we talked about this year being the year of the quarterback, which it certainly looked like going into the season, clearly not. But, like, the thing that I look at with it is these are the two best rushing offenses of the Big 12. Maybe Utah's also in that conversation, but they just don't have the chance to prove it because they lost to both of these teams. Mm-hmm. But that, like, it's kind of that simple. And, I mean, Sonny Dykes said it, and I'll never forget it. Like, we looked and saw, like, the best rushing offenses were the ones that won this league, and that's going to once again remain true, despite us thinking heading into the season it would be about the quarterback of the year of the quarterback.
And Texas Tech is top 3 in the Big 12 in rushing offense. They are the most explosive offense in the entire country. Now, Stone Harrington hit a school record 5 field goals in that first matchup, 47, 39, 34, 29, 27. So that earlier matchup showed that Texas Tech doesn't necessarily need touchdowns every drive because their defense is that good. And it's going to be difficult for BYU to win a field position battle because of Texas Tech's dominance in the trenches. So for me, it kind of does come down to explosives, where Texas Tech, can they break some big runs or chunk passing plays? And for BYU, does Parker Kingston get loose for one? LJ Martin is a guy that, he has explosives from time to time, but he's more of a between the tackles 4, 5, 6, 7 yard runner. And I think that's difficult. So BYU will need explosive plays. There can't be a huge discrepancy like there was in the first matchup in explosives when Tech had double-digit chunk plays and BYU had 4. So turnovers, chunk plays, and can BYU get off to a fast start? They've been down in the second half of so many games this year, and against Texas Tech, that magic does not come easy.
What do you think, if BYU is to win this game, what has to happen?
Parker Kingston gets loose for a long touchdown, either in special teams or like he did against UCF. He breaks a tackle, and I'm talking 50, 60, 70-yard score. I think that has to happen for BYU to win the football game. And then the turnovers need to be either even or plus BYU because they have to figure out a way to get extra possessions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with the turnover piece. I mean, and forget about the even part. Like, BYU cannot turn the football over, period. They cannot give Tech extra possessions. Every play call, every play has to be carefully, because you almost have to be perfect in a sense against this Texas Tech team. That's pretty much what they've proven. You have to be perfect. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it starts with no turnovers. And, yeah, I agree. I don't know that LJ Martin needs, 150 yards rushing. I don't even know that he needs 100 yards rushing.
But he needs more than 30,
yeah,
like he had the first time.
Yeah. And then, obviously, we talked about, I think Parker Kingston's the key player in this game because he can take the top off. He can score on special teams. Like, yeah, I agree with you there. Like, I start with BYU cannot turn the football over. They've got to play better on special teams, which – like, just be average. Just do the things you need to do on special teams. Don't fumble punts. Don't muff punts. That kind of stuff. And then I think if you look at Kingston's line, he's got a touchdown. They win the game.
And it feels like we've spoken more today about BYU. And I think it's because of something you said there. We know what Texas Tech is. We know how dominant they are. You have to basically play perfect.
I mean, I expect them to win, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, it says a lot about Texas Tech and their season that you have to spend so much time looking at how does this team hang with this juggernaut that is Texas Tech. Speaking of Texas Tech, our next interview will be Chris Level. He will join us from the Texas Tech Red Raider radio network. He'll be on the sidelines for the Big 12 championship game. We spoke with him the other day, and he had great stuff and insight into this matchup before we pick some of these conference championship games and wrap up the show as we head into hour number 3. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. So please be joined right now by Greg Wrubell, the voice of BYU, as BYU gears up for a Big 12 championship appearance against Texas Tech on Saturday at AT&T Stadium. And, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, Greg, to consider that when this season started, or right even before the season started, to think that BYU would end up here. Right? We knew this team would be good, but just the uncertainty at quarterback, it's just wild to think how crazy of a season it's been, considering, again, that this team lost its starting quarterback from last year right before the season started.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, you could argue that BYU is still, kind of paying the price.
Chris, good morning.
It is a good morning. How are you guys?
Man, we're good. I assume things are quite well in Lubbock. Texas Tech, top 4 in the college football playoff rankings. Big 12 championship game on Saturday. I don't think we've had you on since whatever game Texas Tech was camping out for a few weeks ago.
BYU game, ironically enough. Yes.
BYU,
yeah,
that is it.
That's right.
The rematch on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, this is all very surreal. This is all uncharted territory, I guess is just the best way to phrase it for everybody here from a football standpoint. This is just not – I think there were obviously big expectations here before the season, but you weren't sure what they had really put together. You knew it was going to be better than last year or was supposed to be, but you weren't sure exactly what it was going to take. You weren't sure how healthy you were going to stay. And you've basically – had a quarterback play with a broken leg since game 1. You don't have your starting running back. You're missing your starting defensive tackle since the Kansas game, which is about 6 weeks ago. But there's a lot here, man, and they are a very complete football team. And I think they said it on the CFP stuff last night. I think you've you won every game that you've won by 20 plus points, and your margin of victory is I think like in the 30s. And they did not play well in Tempe, and to Sam Levitt and Kenley Dillingham and Jordan Tyson's credit, that crowd's credit, you did not play well, but with your backup quarterback, you had a lead in that game with 2 minutes to go, which you had no business like winning that game. And I thought they may even pull that out, but it's been a special season, easily the best one since 2008 around here for sure.
Yeah. How would you beat Texas Tech? If you were Kalani Sitake, what would you be doing this week to try to beat Texas Tech?
If I'm them, I think you have to really cut it loose and throw the ball down the field. I don't know if this is what they're necessarily built to do best. I would take some chances. I would kind of spread it out a bit, and I would try to throw the ball down the field a bit, take some shots. I would take some chances on special teams. This is what Arizona State did. They max protected a few times and just chunked it, and 3 times and it wasn't Tyson in those cases. It was guys that had caught like 4 or 5 passes for the season to that point, and it flipped the field. Now Texas Tech held Arizona State to field goals in a lot of those cases, but BYU's got a good enough defense to make this thing interesting. And I saw that up close. I think there's two schools of thought here, like looking at the game a month ago. BYU's saying, man, we're just right there. Like if just a few things go our way, we were really good in the red zone. If we can just get our offense to play a bit better and not muff a punt on special teams. Whereas Texas Tech is saying, guys, we were 2-5 in the red zone. We had to settle for 5 field goals. We had a possession at the end of the half where we're throwing it into the end zone twice. We drop it. We come away with nothing. This thing should have been 45-7.
Yeah.
But I do think that if I'm BYU, I would take a few shots down the field. What do they have to lose here? They have to empty their bucket, and I think Texas Tech is well aware of this. And I think Texas Tech will kind of be in the aggressive, take some chances mindset as well. But that's what I would, if I was them, that's what I would do. Are they built to do that? Can you do that consistently throughout the game? I don't know. This is going to be a big stage with bright lights, and somebody's going to do something a bit uncharacteristic. But one of these two quarterbacks will come away with the thought that they are a bright shining star for different reasons. One, because Barrett Bachmeier could have pulled off a huge upset, but Baron Morton, look what he played through. Look where he got his team. He's the hometown kid that came home and did it. He did it for his team. So it's fascinating storylines.
I also love the fact that, both coaches are a storyline here in that Kalani Sitake's not going to Penn State. We can set that aside. And Joey McGuire signs that new 7-year contract, runs through 2032. It's bumping his annual salary to around $7 million or just a little bit over. Just your thoughts on having him locked in long-term in Lubbock.
Yeah, James, this was never a question. This had been briefly discussed, I think, for many weeks. I think that everybody kind of knew that this was not a coach or an agent or a school that were going to haggle. I think Joey is you could have made the argument that maybe he could have gotten a bit more. I think that was intentional. I think he's got some bonuses that are easily attainable that get him much higher in any given year if he can get certain things done. But I think Joey was mainly concerned about, I want to do life with certain people. I want to ensure they are taken care of, and I want to ensure that we can continue to take care of my players. And so I don't need, he's never really been motivated by the money aspect of this thing. Sure, he wants to be taken care of, but they live a really good life in Lubbock, Texas. But he's more worried about his surroundings and the happiness and ability to win. And so, but I think that's it was a foregone conclusion, but it's nice to have it out there and all that. I thought it was going to come out next week, but I think somebody got wind of it. And because I don't think Joey wanted that distraction, not that it was, but I just don't think he was wanting all that out there this week. But that's not the way it works sometimes.
It's super funny, Chris, that we didn't lead off on the early signing day talking to you about, I don't know, the greatest signing class in the history of Texas Tech football that's about to happen with 2 5-stars, 5 4-stars. And, last year, obviously, they made hay in terms of the transfer portal, but I love the evolution now of, okay, the portal helps, but we really need to be, getting 4 and 5 stars consistently. And so I think this is the dawn of a real new era of Texas Tech football.
Yeah, I think that they are really trying to aim extremely high when it comes to the prospects, and it's at certain positions. If you are on the offensive line, if you are on the defensive line, if you play quarterback, I think that there's some premium positions there that, because that's where you've signed a 5-star edge rusher, you're going to sign a 5-star offensive tackle. I think you've got a 5-star quarterback next year. Another 5-star offensive lineman, a 5-star defensive tackle. I mean, so there's some themes there, but you're right. It's you won't be able to lure a full class, I don't think, of all these guys, but you're picking very wisely in at certain positions. But they're gonna recruit and develop. And Ari, you mentioned that about the class. I think they're gonna sign. I think it's 17 of those guys will be here in a few weeks, including, I think, with Damian Guyton.
Wow.
Who is one of the 5-star edge guys. It may not be till June, but he reclassified. But so many of these guys are all going to be here and could be a part of the rotation or depth pieces next season.
Wow. Well, and what does that say about just kind of the shift when it comes to Texas Tech and their recruiting philosophy? This year was the transfer class. They were 10th in the high school recruiting rankings for last year. This year they're number 1 in the Big 12 with those 20 commitments. So I think the narrative that, they build through the portal, it's going to be both now, it looks like, at Texas Tech.
Oh yeah. You're about to go attempt to you're going to go sign a quarterback in the portal. You're going to go sign a starting quarterback in the portal because and that'll be interesting when that comes out. Trust me. And then you're going to really try to recreate, if you can, and it's not going to be easy to do, what you did on the defensive line. They are waiting to find out on the 5-for-5 ruling here in a couple of weeks because Reggie Virgil could end up coming back here. He's one of the starting outside receivers. They're trying to get Skylar Go Howard back because he played in the equivalent of 4 games. So there's still some things to be decided, but they're going to play ball in the portal for sure. And this is just what it takes. I mean, you're looking around and everybody. I find it funny. The BYU example is a great one. You see the reporting. It's like he's going to make this. The school has agreed to throw in $10 or $15 million in NIL money above the rev sharing. This house settlement thing sounded cute. It was funny. Hey, you guys play in the sandbox. Now it's just it's a beach. There's just sand all over the place. You're not. Lane Kiffin, LSU. Hey, we'll give you $25 million a year. To NIL. So this is just what's happening, and there's no toothpaste going back in the tube, and but so this is just what it requires, I think, to play at this high level. Honestly,
yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, it's kind of funny. The funny part about it is how overt and obvious that everybody's being about it, and it's like, how are you going to define what market value is? That's at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah, there's no recourse. I mean, there's no, right. and again, because again, the reporting is just out there. Like, wait a second, I didn't think you were allowed to do it. I mean, it sounded good in theory. Everybody wanted guardrails and all that stuff, but because there's some schools out there that aren't even operating at the full rev share. It's like, hey, man, I think Bill O'Brien at Boston College is like, well, they promised to give us a full rev share component at Boston College, and that doesn't count anything above and beyond, but this is what most of these schools are doing. All these new coaches in the SEC that just got hired, you don't think that that was the first question that they asked?
100%.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
100%. Mm-hmm. I want a couple of questions since you mentioned this. So is there a possibility of Skylar Gill-Howard returning in, let's say, a quarterfinal matchup at AT&T Stadium in a few weeks on January 1st?
Yes, would not rule it out. Yeah, I think that would be the earliest. I don't think that. I mean, that's still, as we're sitting here talking, that's still close to a month away.
Yeah.
And I think originally his injury was a kind of an 8-week thing. I think things would need to go really well for that to happen and for him to have, any kind of impact. But if you're playing on New Year's Eve in Arlington, I would not rule him out just yet. No.
And then the other part is you mentioned that they could get a red shirt for him. So would that,
it's postseason, so it doesn't count.
Got it. Okay, I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
Which is the dumbest thing ever. This is just one of the many things that the NCAA
the biggest games of the season.
but in basketball, if you step on the floor for 1 minute, your year is used up. So, but in football, you get 4 regular season games, and then you get all the postseason. So the Texas Tech can play anybody they want, in this conference championship game or anything past that, and there's no recourse. Your year is already established. But in basketball, you step on the floor 1 minute and you're triggered. I for the life of me, I did not grasp the common sense there or lack thereof.
And then the other part is, so you mentioned the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. So it's important to note here that Will Hammond's injury is going to have him out to. I mean, he wouldn't be able to start the season. In fact, I don't think he'd be back, at earliest till mid-year. That's why you said they've got to get QB1 in the portal.
Yeah, I think that we don't. Luckily for Will, it was just an ACL. It wasn't everything, so you don't know what the rehab. But it would be a lot to ask and unfair to him to say, okay, bud, you need to kind of get this going, man. Here's the ball. Here's the keys. Go. Okay. Well, what do you mean you can't run as well as you used to? I mean, so I think that you want to,
right.
But you'll still have Mitch Griffiths here. Lloyd Jones, who came in and at the end of the West Virginia game, he threw 2 touchdown passes to Micah Hudson, and he'll be there. But you're going to go get a starting quarterback, period. Yes, and you will get a. You will get a bona fide starting quarterback with experience that potentially has a NFL draft decision to make or not. So, and we'll kind of see what options emerge. Could come from within the Big 12. You never know.
Chris, real quick, Joey McGuire's been pushing for BYU to be in the college football playoff. You've seen that team up close. Should they be in?
1,000%. It sickens me that these two teams aren't already in. It appears, based on the rankings right now, Texas Tech is in regardless of the result on Saturday morning, unless there were to be like a 31-point BYU win or something. Okay, so at that point, all bets are off. I don't understand what we're doing here. The one regret, I think both teams, maybe if they had a redo, some of this is out of your control, is maybe you would have had a little bit more on your non-conference schedule just to make it a bit interesting, break a tie. I don't know. But 11 wins, man. And this is the whole thing with Satake, with the BYU thing. It's like I don't think he was ever legitimately going. I think he had leverage and he used it. However, if that is important to him and he's saying to himself, what do I have to do to get into this tournament? And if you were at Penn State, we wouldn't even be talking about it. You would be like, okay, who are they going to host? I mean, they would already be locked in.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's I don't know if that's Commissioner Yormark's job. I don't know if now I'm really rooting for expansion. I don't know, but it's and the only reason Texas Tech is ranked where they are, this is not a good trend for the Big 12 either, is because they've just hammered everybody. They have won every game by 20 plus points. Their margin of victory is in the 30s. They've gotten credit for their loss because it was on the road with a backup quarterback, so they haven't punished them severely. But what if you're sitting there at 11-1 and you hadn't won by all these lopsided margins? I mean, would you be like, okay, we're gonna have to travel in the first? I mean, I just don't know where it would be, but I think that's what they're pointing to. It's almost because you forced the issue because you just blown out everybody. So I don't know. It's very frustrating to me, but Arlington will be special on Saturday morning. It will be a massive game and two big brands and two team. I mean, combined 22-2. I'm here for it. Injected into my veins, and
Let's go.
I mean, yeah, it should be a lot of fun, man. And this is like, you know, the old thing from Rudy. This is the most beautiful sight these eyes have ever seen. I mean, I feel like I may say that because I wasn't sure that Texas Tech would ever make it.
Yep. This is it. This is it. This is the moment. All right, Chris, thanks for your time. Great to talk to you as always. Enjoy the game on Saturday.
See you, buddy.
Keep hope alive, boys. See you on Saturday.
All right. Chris Level, publisher for Red Raider Sports, radio analyst and sidelines for Texas Tech, Red Raider Radio Network, here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We're back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, where you can catch John Pardee at halftime of the Big 12 championship game, a sellout at AT&T Stadium, home of the Cowboys in Arlington, here in the DFW area. The game is at noon Eastern, 11 Central tomorrow. Texas Tech and BYU. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Chris Level joining us just moments ago. He'll be on the sidelines for the Texas Tech Red Raider radio network. Well, this Fanatic Friday has gone full throttle here as we wrap up the show over the next half hour because the Big 12 and the NFL has just announced the formation of maybe the biggest college pro partnership we've ever seen in sports. This is a strategic partnership that is aimed at strengthening the entire football ecosystem from the release. But the focused areas, really there's several key things. Number one is officiating, and not just exchanging information, but the Big 12 and the NFL working side by side for improvements there. Global football, the international aspect, emerging technology and analytics, and then flag football expansion. So there's a lot of different parts of this agreement, but the NFL and the Big 12 are going to work together to continue to develop officials, trainers, coaches, data scientists with all the analytics, and both sides will be working to identify officials that have NFL potential, maybe a feeder system straight to Sundays. There's just a lot of really cool things in this breakdown.
Yeah, it's very few days go by where we don't get emails from the Big 12 that are press releases about a new strategic partnership. This one, though, stands out because it's with the National Football League. And, yeah, I mean, officiating development, global football initiatives, emerging technology, analytics, and flag football expansion. I think this just falls in line with the culture that Brett Yormark has created in the Big 12. We're not just saying that as a part of Big 12 radio. It's not, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, this is a dude that has put together an impressive, extremely impressive, index of partnerships that are, important strategic partnerships, important revenue drivers. And this is the latest. I mean, there was another one earlier this week that we haven't even mentioned or talked about yet that I'm just trying to go through my email and find it. It's like there's just very few days that go by where we don't see new news about the conference. Oh, yeah, the Big 12 conference names Designs for Sports. This is an official sports supplement partner. So there's a revenue piece from, a corporate partnership standpoint. We do as much research as we can on this conference for the show. Other conferences are out there complaining about the college football playoff. Are there enough teams? And Yormark's just working, man. It's crazy.
Meanwhile, he's working to put together a deal with the NFL. And I think the officiating is kind of the centerpiece. The Big 12 officials will now have access to NFL clinics, which means Big 12 refs will train in the same room as the guys in the NFL. Weekly NFL teaching tapes, accountability tools. So now NFL grading systems and evaluations of officials. And then I think the global development and the tech piece is super exciting. The Commissioner Yormark, he when he was on with us, talked about the importance of playing games in Ireland and overseas, and kind of that growth that we've seen worldwide at the NFL level, to be able to share that strategy. And they're talking about joint appearances at global ID camps, and then the player development with player tracking technology that they're using in the NFL and performance data, and just some really innovative things.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I'd be very curious to talk with Brett Yormark about some of the specifics on this, but, obviously many of these fall in line with some of the initiatives that Yormark's been talking about in terms of playing overseas. I mean, that's been one of the tenets that culturally Brett Yormark has embraced since he started. I mean, initially they tried to play basketball in Mexico City, and, now there's a new, Big 12 annual football game in Europe. So, everybody sleeps and Brett Yormark's working. It's crazy. I mean, it really is wild how many strategic partnerships. And I'd imagine, Greg Sankey and commissioners across other leagues are like, the NFL?
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is an eye-opener. Big time. This is one that is, again, this is just broken, and a lot of chatter about the Big 12 and the NFL and this arrangement. It is awesome. All right, let's pick some. You want to pick some games?
Well, there's one game in the Big 12, yes?
There's one game in the Big 12. There's a lot of conference championship games. In fact, there are 1, 2, 3, I see 9 between tonight and tomorrow.
Wow.
9 conference championship games. We can pick Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State if you want, or we can pick the top 5 conference championship games. But what do we look like big picture standings-wise?
Well, I mean, you wrote on the rundown we're going to pick everyone.
Yeah, and then I pivoted. It's a pivot.
Interesting.
Pivot.
But I did the
Do you want to pick every game?
I want to pick every game.
You want to pick every game?
Yeah,
Let's
Mr.
pick
Pivot.
every game.
Yeah, Mr. Pivot.
Let's
You wrote it
pick every
down,
game.
so I did it.
Let's pick every game. All right, we'll start with Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State is a 1.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I like Kennesaw State plus 1.5. When you look at what Kennesaw State's passing game has done the last few weeks, and it's exploded of late, and Jacksonville State's defense allows 5.8 yards per play and ranks in the hundreds defensively, so I think Kennesaw State will not only cover this but win and win outright. I like Kennesaw State to win this one.
Okay, give me Jacksonville State because that's where Rich Rod coached before West Virginia. I don't know who the coach is now, but I'm going to guess it's somebody from within that tree, and I trust in Rich Rod. And Jacksonville State at 1.5. I think they're favored for a reason. They're a feast or famine defense, if I remember right. So I'll take Jacksonville State.
Yeah, a lot more famine appears than feast. But, yeah,
Okay.
no, that's a good call there. I like that. That's good.
Okay, Troy at James Madison. James Madison is favored by 20.5 points.
Yeah, I think James Madison will cover this. They're a top 5 national defense, and they face a Troy offense that's ranked near the bottom of the Sun Belt. Troy is 12th of 14 in league offense, is 12th of 14 in their league in offense. So even without James Madison having their coach, I still like James Madison's elite defense to win this one. Give me James Madison to cover 20.5.
Yeah, Troy went 4-8 last year. This year they are 8-4. And if you remember right, they had a game in the non-conference where they had a big lead on was it Clemson that they almost beat? Yeah, it was Clemson. They lost that game 27-16, but they have lost 2 of their last 4. They got smoked by 33 against Old Dominion, lost to Arkansas State 23-10. So I really want to take Troy because of the coach piece, but I will take James Madison. That 20.5, that's just kind of an odd number. I think it's a 3-touchdown win for James Madison, playing for maybe a berth in the college football playoff. Up next, we've got UNLV against Boise State. Boise State is favored by 3.
Yeah, Boise already beat UNLV 56-31 earlier this year, and they've got. I mean, this is they're like a classic Big 12 team right now. Boise is, with a great defense and a really good running game, and UNLV is a more of a pass-heavy team. I think, again, with the fact that Boise already hammered UNLV, give me Boise minus 3.
All right, I'll take UNLV. Under Dan Mullen, they've gotten better as the season's gone along. They are 10-2. I believe this game is played in Vegas, I think.
Yep.
Their quarterback over 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns.
Which would
only
matter if
8
UNLV had
interceptions.
fans.
It'll definitely be more of a Boise State crowd. That's a really good point. The rematch, something tells me UNLV can hang and win this game outright. Up next, we've got North Texas at Tulane. Remember, this game is played at Tulane in the American. The team that finishes first in the conference gets to host the conference championship game. Both coaches are out the door. Eric Morris to Oklahoma State, John Sumrall to Florida. Who do you like in that one?
Give me North Texas to cover the points here. North Texas this year 10-3 against the spread. Tulane is 6-6 against the spread. UNT is first nationally in points per game. We know that obviously with Eric Morris leading the charge, and he's going to be coaching in this game. Plus, they don't turn the football over, and Tulane's offense, I don't think they can keep up with Drew Mestemaker and this UNT offense. Give me North Texas to not only win this game, but punch their ticket into the college football playoff. How about that?
Okay, I like Tulane in this matchup. Is John Sumrall coaching in this game, or is he already in Gainesville? Either way, North Texas has struggled this season against teams that play stylistically like Tulane. Really good at the line of scrimmage, keep their offense off the field. I think Tulane can hang around and maybe win this one. Plus, it's at home, and they do have fans in New Orleans.
Yes.
Miami, Ohio against Western Michigan. Western Michigan is favored by 3.
Well, Miami of Ohio's quarterback this year has been DeQuan Finn, the former Baylor quarterback, but he's not going to be available in this game. So they're now riding a redshirt freshman. And so I like Western Michigan. They bring in more stable offense, and they're 9-3 against the spread. Give me Western Michigan to cover 3 points.
I like Western Michigan to cover 3 as well. You had me at Finn will not play. News to me that he's at Miami, Ohio. All right, now we get to the big dogs. We've got Georgia and Alabama. SEC championship game. Alabama's an underdog in this matchup by 1.5. Who do you like there?
This to me is a coin flip. So in that case, give me Alabama plus the points here. It's funny. I was trying to think of this game from the context of which outcome would be better for the conference. But I'm not sure that there is one. I think if Alabama loses, it might be better for the conference overall. But Alabama has a top 5 SP plus defense. I like Alabama to cover this in a game that I think is a coin flip. Give me Alabama plus 1.5.
I like Alabama as well. Georgia's just 1-10 in their last 11 games against Alabama going back to 2008. This will be the third time that these two teams have met in the SEC championship since 2021. In the past 2 head-to-heads with Kalen DeBoer and Kirby Smart, Alabama has scored 28 points in the first quarter while limiting Georgia to none. Georgia's also 66th in the country in first quarter scoring, so I like Alabama to get off to a hot start. We also have in the ACC, how about this banger? Duke and Virginia. Virginia's favored by 2.5.
In the first meeting between Virginia and Duke this year, Virginia led 31-3 after 3 quarters and outgained Duke 540 yards to 255, with the ACC's number 2 scoring defense suffocating Duke's offense. And again, in that game, Virginia was actually negative in the turnover margin. Virginia is 8-4 against the spread. Duke is 5-7. I think 2.5 is not enough points in this game. Give me UVA minus 2.5.
Yeah, I think we still look at Virginia, and it's like a team that was 11-23 under Tony Elliott in his first 3 seasons. Can they really win the ACC championship? Well, they're playing a team that they boat raced the first time around. That was a 31-3 game. Midway through the fourth quarter, Duke got some late garbage touchdowns. It was a total blowout. Also, Duke is 3-3 in their last 6, and they're giving up 34 points per game. Their defense has been really bad. I like Virginia as well. All right, one more before we get to the Big 12 game. Indiana and Ohio State. Ohio State is favored by 5.5 points.
Every fiber of my being says do not take Indiana plus the points. Do not take Indiana plus the points. I'm taking Indiana plus 5.5. I do think, this is a better team than last year's team. This is not a team built to get boat raced by Ohio State like last year. I think this is a team that belongs in the same field as Ohio State. But we'll see. Ohio State could be one of these. It could be that they've just played it close to the vest until they get to this environment, and then they unleash everything. Or they could again keep it close to the vest until they get to the playoffs. So, anyways, I know what we're going to get from Indiana. I don't know what we're going to get from Ohio State. Give me Indiana plus 5.5.
I like Ohio State to clobber Indiana tomorrow. Indiana's 122nd in rushing explosives allowed. Ohio State, we know what they can do on the ground. And Julian Sayin, by the way, is the most accurate passer in the nation when it comes to on-target rate. So I will take Ohio State. All right, the big one tomorrow, Big 12 championship, BYU and Texas Tech. I see it at Texas Tech favored by 11.5 in this matchup.
I'm taking BYU. I do think Texas Tech wins it outright, but I'm taking BYU. I think it's far too many points. And, obviously I think Vegas sets this line by what happened in the last time these two teams met. I think Texas Tech's going to be BYU's going to be far more prepared this time around. I don't think they're going to have the same mistakes they had. I don't think they're going to be -3 in the turnover differential. Again, I think Tech wins, but I think the BYU – look, I think Tech's motivated to win this game, get to the playoff, have a bye, be a top 4 seed to play in Arlington. But I think BYU's motivation may be a little bit higher. I just think it'll be a closer game than 11.5 points. Again, I think Tech wins this outright, but give me BYU plus 11.5.
I like the BYU Cougars to cover that large number as well. In the first matchup, BYU ran a lot of nickel defense and actually stuffed 39% of the rushing attempts from Texas Tech, but they had some explosive runs that put them in field goal range when BYU's defense would then re-clamp down and force all those field goals. And I'm with you. The laws of averages when both teams are really good in turnover margin, when you have one huge swing the first matchup, leads me to believe that it'll come back down to more even in this second matchup, which means I think BYU hangs around a little bit.
Yeah, I think BYU is better positioned to hang with Texas Tech this time than the last time. The game was in Lubbock. You know, they I don't know that they had a sense of how good Tech was. It felt like whether they were scared or just didn't, maybe underestimated, and underestimate's probably not the right word, but it just feels like the game started and they're like, wait, can we start over? Can we redo this? We don't like how this started. Can we redo this? So we'll get the redo here.
Also, Chase Roberts should be available tomorrow for BYU. He didn't play last time out in their game against UCF. He was on the field against Texas Tech.
And the availability report's really interesting for BYU because they had a lot more players in the availability report on Tuesday and Wednesday than they do now. The last one that was released yesterday had one player listed as questionable. They had a guy, a linebacker, Max Alford, listed as out on Wednesday's availability report. He's not even on the availability report anymore. Very interesting. Very interesting. Kalani doing a little bit of Kyle Whittingham.
A little cat and mouse here for that. We wrap up the show coming up next with This Could Have Been an Email, and Ari has a killer crossover. That's next on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. That is our Pick'em segment. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. going to hear plenty of that tomorrow at AT&T Stadium for the Big 12 Championship game, which is at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central, home of the Dallas Cowboys. The Big 12 Championship, it is on the line with BYU and Texas Tech. We wrap up Big 12 today, a full week here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Special thanks to Edgar and Anthony keeping us up and on the air.
Edgar Preciado's the best, dude. I mean, this guy's so high up at TuneIn, and he came in to help produce tomorrow's show, and he came in to produce today's show. I mean, this dude is way better than hosting our show, and he did it, and he killed it because of course he did.
He is our boss. So our boss has been with us over the last 3 hours. We're not making that up. Producing this show. That is truly having skin in the game.
Yeah.
I hope you're not just saying nice things because I'm here.
Oh, you should hear what we say when you're not here. I'm still reeling from that bill that we had the last time the three of us were together at that steakhouse.
And now we're eating chips for lunch.
That's right. Basically, the note from TuneIn was, since you overspent your budget on that one meal, you've got less than $10 in every other meal you
have
buy.
A bag of mixed nuts for lunch today.
Good protein.
So it could have been an email segment, but I've got to hear about this killer crossover, the world of AI, and we're not talking about Allen Iverson. Ari sent me a text yesterday afternoon that said he just got in a fight with ChatGPT. And if there's one person on this planet who could fight a robot, it is this man right here to my right. So what happened?
Well, okay, so you know how your wife is always right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, like you've ever argued with your wife and
You thought you could bring in ChatGPT for support.
No. Okay. No. This has nothing to do with my wife. I'm just simply saying, like, sometimes, first of all, not sometimes. Your wife's always right.
Yeah, got it.
And especially in an argument with your wife, right? So that's like ChatGPT, only in this case, you're arguing with somebody that's a robot that believes and it is programmed to believe they're always right. And so, long story short, you put me on to doing like a ChatGPT workout. You basically plug in some different things and it gives you this great workout. Mm-hmm. And some of the workouts, I don't know exactly what it's advising me to do. So I'm like, well, can you embed some GIFs in there so that I can see what the workout is? And so I wanted to do a new workout. So it generates this, but it didn't generate the GIFs. And then, so I'm like, okay, do this again, but generate the GIFs. And it did it again. It didn't generate the GIFs. So now I'm getting kind of frustrated. Like, you're not listening to me, chat, okay? Like, you're not listening to me. Okay? But now it's trying to convince me that there's something wrong with my phone and not something wrong. And so it's like, uninstall the app, and it's giving me all these instructions. I spent like 20 minutes. I'm like at the gym on my phone, like doing all these things. People are probably looking at me like I'm a moron. Like, just get to a workout, dude. And I'm standing there in the middle of everything, and I'm like doing all these things, and like that still didn't work. And they're talking about like, and I get to the middle. I'm like, this is like arguing with my wife. It's like she's convinced she's right, and she's not right. And so now I'm like, you're wrong, robot. Nothing's wrong with my phone. It's you. It's like, no, it can't do it. And I'm like,
just tell it hard reboot, refresh.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yeah, I did that. I uninstalled. I signed out. I
you did all that.
restarted my phone. I did a hard reboot of my phone. I did like a million things. Update the app. I updated the app. There's no updates available, chat. Oh, well, you're not yet ready for it. It's like argue with my wife.
And you were at the gym. Oh, I bet you were so mad.
So mad. It's like, and meanwhile, by the way, like some of them have GIFs, but not all of them do. Like, what are you talking about? You can't embed the GIFs, chat. Now you're lying to me, chat. You're lying to me. You're a liar.
Oh, that's great.
So, I mean, when you're arguing with your wife and she's convinced she's right, at least you can be like, all right, I can like live with the fact.
Convinced she's right.
Or she is right.
Okay.
Or convinced she's right.
I think it's that.
Yeah. In this case, though, you're like, you can't tell it it's wrong. It just gives you, even I like said, you're wrong, and it's like, it gives you 40 reasons why it's not wrong. I'm glad, and then it does this whole thing, like, it's just making me more upset. Like, I get, like, I'm not trying to argue with you. Like, literally, that's what ChatGPT was saying. I'm not trying to argue with you. You're right to be.
I understand.
You're right to be feeling this way.
You're visibly frustrated, but please reinstall the app.
Yeah. No, and then I did it, and still same thing. So it's like, what am I doing here? This is like, again, arguing with my wife because she thinks she's right all the time because she's literally programmed as a robot algorithm to always be right. But you know what, chat? You're not. Okay?
It's going to be really expensive at some point. Like, there's different levels already. The free version is... It's
Well, I don't
not
have the free version.
I know that. You've got the middle tier, right? But even the middle tier is not as fast as the upper echelon,
Wait, what?
which I don't have.
This is-
There's another tier to what we have.
When did that happen?
Not that long ago, but it's super expensive. Like $200 a month. Think
Bit-
about what that baby can do. I asked ChatGPT to pull some of my browsing history, and I've asked ChatGPT to
$200 a month?
a month. Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, $20 a month was pushing it. What kind of what is
What
a
can
pro
that
doing?
do? Like drive your car, brush your teeth, all of it.
Imagine arguing with the $200 version.
No, you're toast. You're toast.
Not only, but like if you're wrong, chat, and I'm paying $200 a month, I'm going to throw you out the window.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My Chat GPT informed me that I have asked it to build me a workout to get that Olympic swimmer bod more times than I'm proud to admit. Says, bro, you got to chill. Like, we are not your personal trainer. Got to pump the brakes on that.
Bro, get in
Very
the pool.
specific.
Bro,
Very-
get in the pool.
Get in the pool
and
if you want to
start
look
swimming-
like an Olympian.
And start swimming miles in the pool. You want to do that? Like,
Get to some
I give up.
water. So, anyways, that's what I'm going for. Clearly, I asked it this morning if I'm safe to drive to work. My tire pressure was super low. Spoiler alert: I was not. I had to pull over and air up a tire. Said my tire's at XPSI. It's about 35 degrees right now. Am I safe to drive to work? It informed me that I am not.
Well, yeah, because also, by the way, that's a huge liability. Let's just say, I'm assuming ChatGPT comes with some sort of liability protection there.
Insurance plan. Man.
Not only
you.
that, but like, let's just say you crashed. Then you went to court and you sued OpenAI because you said, hey, Chat told me I was safe to drive. So I would imagine in most cases, if you ask if it's safe to do something, they're going to tell you no.
Right.
Because OpenAI, it's a huge liability piece.
Yeah, that's a good point. That makes more sense.
I don't know if it would hold up in court. I'm just simply saying, like, you had any opportunity to sue a company that's worth trillions of dollars, you should do it.
Yeah, I like that. That's interesting. I'm gonna.
What else? What else were the highlights of things?
I've asked ChatGPT for a lot of medical advice. Again, things I'm not proud of. So there's a lot there.
Well, don't
to
just
unpack.
don't just.
Let's see.
Let's get specifics here. What kind of medical advice?
Let's not.
What is that thing that I'm seeing appear?
Did
I woke up this morning. It's something on my
Did
crotch.
I send ChatGPT a picture of my junk at some time? Apparently, the answer is yes. The garage door weather stripping crisis. Okay, that was just recently this week. We need some new weather stripping for the garage door, and let's just have ChatGPT send me a direct link for that. Speaking of court and suing these guys, Anthony at Big 12 Studios has.
By the way, his last name is Smith.
Anthony Smith.
I know you're always confused about Anthony.
Why am I confused?
You always just call him Anthony.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
He's not Madonna.
Okay, this is me yesterday. Okay, there I am in
Anthony
court.
Smith. Yes,
via,
this is amazing.
Via Zoom, trying to get all my traffic citations that may or may not have happened over the last decade to get my damn license.
Okay, so if you're following the curious case of James Westling, he's just had a whale of a time first trying to get a new license and then realizing he can't get a Texas license without actually getting Texas license plates and registering his car in the state of Texas.
There are a lot of moving parts and a lot of layers, and I had to go to court, which apparently I missed a court appearance from like over a year ago.
Is this all related to the tint, the window tint too? His car windows are too tinted?
The window tint just kicked everything into overdrive. Everything's fine there.
Wait, can we put that back up, Anthony, please?
So, and you can't see from that picture, there's a whole cast of characters that I'm on this Zoom call with as they're just kind of going through each one one at a time.
Look at your face.
Yeah, I'm not happy. And I'm like, what do I need to do? Turns out I just have to pay a bunch of fees. So I've got to call and pay a bunch of fees.
Well, so this whole thing was they were telling you you've got to explain your situation.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they kept saying.
Which I didn't have to do on the call.
That's good.
Yeah, and I told them that. I said, what do I need? What questions can I answer for you? I'm trying to get my license in a totally different state. This is in a different state, hence the Zoom call, and they read me a bunch of stuff that I didn't understand. It was
So
way over my head.
they wanted to get you on the Zoom call.
To let me know that I need to pay some fees.
Bunch of money. Right. You got to explain your situation, a.k.a. What's your bank account information? We need to just basically start debiting from it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this guy in the lower right-hand corner there,
That's you.
well, that's me, but I mean in the other,
Oh, Judge?
yeah, in the Judge Faber.
Hopefully we're not breaking any privacy laws.
No, we're not. I checked.
Good.
But this guy, this homeboy,
ChatGPT told me I was fine.
this dude is an all-star. He is an all-American attorney who just happened to be there. And he walked me through like 2 or 3 steps to just make this go all the way, right there in front of the judge. So
Was he repping you or the county?
No, I don't know who he was repping.
You might want to figure that out.
couldn't tell you.
If
They
you're ever in
asked me
court- if you're ever in court, you may want to know which lawyers are representing who.
I've seen so much Dateline NBC, they asked me if I wanted representation, and I said no. I have this in the bag. What
Sir,
do you need?
Your Honor, I have seen how much Law and Order SVU I've watched. Please.
All right, that's going to put a wrap on this week's edition of Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
9 to 11 tomorrow. We got Kalani Sitake and Joey McGuire. We are getting you right up to kickoff right here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
It's going to be awesome.
You're not going to be there, so I knew you weren't going to promote it.
I will be there in spirit, and I will be watching and overanalyzing everything you guys say.
If I ever do this, it means that's my sign to you, like Jeff Hornacek
That's
when
the
he's in the
code
NBA
sign?
Finals.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
Former Iowa
Here
State,
for it.
former Iowa State star Jeff Hornacek. I'll give you that. That's how he used to say hello to his family on TV. Do the same to you.
Perfect. I'll be looking for the beard.
look for it.
The beard scratch.
Yeah.
For Edgar, for Anthony, he's Ari, I'm James. This has been Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, your official home here on TuneIn for the Big 12 Conference and Big 12 Studios. We're out.
Might have a little dirt on